Joe Biden has announced we will respond to a drone strike that killed 3 U.S. soldiers and injured 34 more. They say it was done by Iran-backed militia groups and came from Syria. We're now getting a breaking report from Sky News that as early as tonight, Joe Biden may authorize military action in the Middle East, which could spark World War III. I'm not the only one who's saying it. World War III has been trending for some time, especially after these 3 U.S. soldiers had been killed. And there are numerous reports coming out about the fears escalating. And of course, kind of feels like beating a dead horse, but you have had many world leaders saying over and over again over the past year that we are knocking on the doors of World War III. In fact, many said we're already in it. We just don't know it yet. So we'll see. I suppose with all the news now coming out about the fears of World War III, there's a lot to actually break down. But we got big news on the border. Everybody's waiting for an update on what happened with Biden, the Biden administration, and Texas, the National Guard. The Border Patrol has sided with Texas. They said they're not going to interfere. They're not going to be arresting anybody. And they actually disagree with the Supreme Court's ruling. This is from the Border Patrol Union. So this should be particularly interesting. We'll get into all of that. And then we got some more fun news. Mark Cuban has been arguing over diversity, inclusivity, and equity programs. And he stated publicly on X that gender and race do contribute to, he says, I've never had anybody solely based on that, but it does play a factor. Well, one of the commissioners of the EEOC responded to him saying, no, you cannot use it in any way. You are dead wrong. Mark Cuban seems to have publicly admitted to violating the law, opening up all of his companies to massive legal exposure by admitting they use race and gender in hiring, which is illegal. Now there are people reporting anybody who's ever, or I should say the what's going around now, anybody who's been fired or refused a job from any one of his companies now has grounds for a lawsuit to say it was because of their race. So this should get very interesting, my friends. But before we get started, I want you all to head over to factswithben.com. That's FACTS with Ben.com to buy the song Facts by Tom McDonald and Ben Shapiro. You click purchase options, then you select 129. You buy the song, you buy that MP3, you download it. The link is also available in the description below. This is not a promotional sponsor spot. I am just friends with Tom and Ben, and I think you guys, I bought the song already. We all buy this song. We put Ben Shapiro on the Billboard Hot 100. We've already made Ben Shapiro the #1 rapper in the country. Nicki Minaj has even commented on it, congratulating Ben Shapiro. But I'll tell you, it's about us pushing back and taking this territory in the culture war, storming into the cultural institutions and making our voices heard. Tom McDonald's been working really, really hard for a very, very long time. He makes a bunch of really awesome music. He's had a bunch of hits, but at every turn, of course, there are obstacles thrown in his way. And I say this only because it's happened to us as well. We put out a song, whoops, Billboard all of a sudden doesn't track the sales we got anymore for some technical reason. Okay, well, if you want to support Tom McDonald and Ben Shapiro, if you want to stick it to the machine and you want to force the corporate press to acknowledge Ben Shapiro, who doesn't even think rap is music, force them to say, okay, Ben Shapiro is one of the world's top rappers. And buy the song, support our friends, Tom and Ben. And I do appreciate it. Again, I'm not sponsored, but by them in any way. I just really hope that they chart. Based on the metrics I have so far, it does look like, so long as we keep up this campaign until Thursday, Ben and Tom should be on the Hot 100, the top 100 songs in the country, and potentially even the top 200, which is global. So I think that would be fantastic. But don't forget, also head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member to support our work directly. If you like the show and you like what we do and you want to watch the members only uncensored shows, those are available Monday through Thursday at 10 p.m. Front page of our website's available. And as a member, you can hang out with like-minded individuals on the Discord server. And once you're in the Discord server, you can submit questions and call into our uncensored show to talk to us and our guest. Don't forget to also smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with all of your friends. That is the most powerful way to really help out. Joining us to talk about this and everything else is Steve Baker.
Hey, it's good to be here.
Who are you? What do you do?
Who am I? What do I do? God, that's a hard question, actually. I've been around long enough to have done a lot of things. Started my life as a musician,
Oh, great.
Yeah. Did that from the time I was a child, and then became a professional touring musician when I was a 19-year-old punk in college. And
Wow.
Yeah, I was a trumpet player. And I was
cool.
Yeah, so I answered the call to go on the road with a band. I quit school, did that for several years, and have been in music business in one form or the other most of my life.
And now you're a journalist.
Well, yeah, I'd been writing on the side. That was always kind of my hobby, and then it became my side hustle and that sort of thing. And then once, AOL became MySpace, and MySpace became Facebook, and Facebook became a blog, and now that has all become Blaze Media. That's who I work for now.
And one of the big stories that we've been covering quite a bit is that for your coverage of January 6th, as a journalist, as one of the most, anybody looked at you, they're like, oh, that guy's a journalist, right? They're threatening to lock you up.
Yes.
Yeah, of like, you're sitting there wearing the suit on the Blaze, and I'm
Right.
like, they could have some fat dude in a t-shirt, and you're going to be like, is he a journalist? Or like, what does he do? That guy in the suit and with the glasses, like, oh, he looks like a journalist.
But you know what? I did not look like a journalist on January 6th. Because see, I had a David Bowie tribute act at the time, and because it was the COVID lockdowns, I decided that I was going to change my Bowie look, and so I was actually growing my hair out during that time.
Wow.
So as I'm walking through the Capitol on the CCTV cameras, I have this long mane coming out of the back of my ball cap.
They're threatening to lock you up.
Yeah.
Because you were reporting on January 6th. There are several people who, media, let's just go use Owen Schroyer as an example, didn't even go in the building. They
Right.
did lock him up. And so we've covered your story quite a bit. Thanks for joining us. We'll get into the details on that, and we'll see where we are with the updates. But yeah, it's a crazy story.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, right on. We also have Hannah Claire Brimelow hanging out.
Hey, I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for scnr.com. You can see all of our news on Twitter and Instagram at Timcast News. I'm really happy to be here. Shane's back.
What's up? I'm happy to be here. I'm also a writer for Scanner and the author of Tales from the Inverted World, where I write about the thin line between demons and politicians. Quite often.
And the lack thereof.
And there's no more line anymore.
like, I don't know if it's there
Welcome
anymore.
to 2024.
Yeah, also interested to see what you take on the new Kanye stuff is. Maybe we'll get to that. I don't think we will, but we should talk about that otherwise.
I got a lot of takes.
We definitely got to talk about the Taylor Swift conspiracy theory. Man, I've had a lot of people yell at me that the Ravens Chiefs match was rigged, that the refs were throwing it, the Ravens were throwing it. Like, what is happening? I've heard over and over again that there were like 3 instances of pass interference the refs didn't call on the Chiefs and like just gave them a free ride, or they're just salty fans. I don't know. But I'm seeing all over X people like rigged. And you've got this scenario where Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce have this like movie romance going on where it's boosting all this, all of these, revenue and ratings and everything. But there are a lot of people on the right who think Taylor Swift, it's all one big psyop because she's going to announce support for the Democrats. I think that's wrong. I think if there's going to be a side, it'd be something different. But we will talk about that because the idea of the NFL being rigged is very interesting. But we're going to jump to this first story here from Sky News. Check this out. Biden faces pivotal moment as he weighs retaliation for soldier deaths in Jordan drone strike. The commander-in-chief will have given a number of options by the Pentagon, but the consequences are far from certain and could trigger a wider war. Sky News says, as early as tonight, President Joe Biden will authorize U.S. military action in the Middle East. It is likely to be one of the most consequential decisions of his presidency. At stake, the credibility of American deterrence and the teetering stability of the region. This comes after 3 U.S. troops were killed in a drone attack and 34 were injured. CNN reports that, we'll read. 3 U.S. Army soldiers were killed and more than 30 service members were injured in a drone attack overnight on a small U.S. outpost in Jordan, U.S. officials told CNN, marking the first time that U.S. troops have been killed by enemy fire in the Middle East since the beginning of the Gaza war. We shall respond, President Joe Biden said while speaking in South Carolina on Sunday. The killing of 3 Americans at Tower 22 in Jordan near the border with Syria is a significant escalation of an already precarious situation in the Middle East. Officials said the drone was fired by Iran-backed militants and appeared to come from Syria. It is still being determined which militia group specifically is responsible. And of course, we're already seeing the warmongers in Washington, D.C. say, strike Iran now, with the reporting that Joe Biden will be authorizing some form of retaliation tonight. Many are speculating this could kick off World War III. I think it's fair to state that the problem we have here and the difficulty with this kind of commentary is that you have dozens of world leaders saying either World War III is starting, has already started, or is about to start. Then you have constant tit for tat escalations, and we just don't know. I mean, we're in the thick of it. We can't tell. We can't see the forest. We're inside of it. This could be the shot heard around the world moment, but I don't think we would know until well into any kind of actual war. I do believe, however, if Joe Biden does order any kind of retaliation on Iran directly, then it's fine. I think it's fair to say at that point, everything's going to kick off dominoes one after another. So if there is an action taken against Iran in some capacity, and then this ropes in the other countries in the BRICS nations, we may 6 months down the line be like, okay, we're in World War III. History books will look back and say that moment Joe Biden ordered retaliation kicked things off. I got to be honest. I'd actually think that October 7th may be considered the start. If World War III kicks off, you can ignore Ukraine. People will say, well, there were border conflicts happening and there was funding of war in Ukraine, Afghanistan collapse and things like that. October 7th was a massive escalation, which results in the Houthi rebels shutting down, the Red Sea, basically shutting down shipping, which is now leading to a dramatic escalation. At some point, Venezuela can make a move on Guyana. China makes a move on Taiwan. There you go, World War III.
Yeah, it's definitely tense geopolitically. I mean, that's the funny thing about the Ukraine conflict, which is that for a while when this was happening, when Russia was stationing troops along the border, everyone was like, we're on the brink of something, And they did shut down trade, and there are all kinds of sanctions against Russia. And ultimately, we just started to learn to live with this conflict. I mean, of course, the U.S. government is paying billions of dollars to support Ukraine, and the American taxpayers are feeling the effect of that at home. But ultimately, it doesn't seem like that was enough to spark World War III. This does seem like more of a tension-building moment. But maybe we'll feel differently in 6 months.
People like Lindsey Graham, they've been wanting Iran forever. They want us inside Iran. They want to slide on in, occupy that space and just take it.
Is that why we have a small contingency in Jordan? Are they bait for the warmongers?
Well, the other thing, too, is that Intercept is reporting we've got troops in Yemen. This is a White House report saying we did. And then in January said, actually, no, we don't. We're not sure there's any troops there. There's been a secret war in Yemen going on for like a decade. The U.S. has been supplying weapons, even under Trump. This has been ongoing. The question is, when does it come to a point where Russia, China, or any BRICS nation, for instance, just finally says, yeah, no, it's full scale, it's mobilization.
And would they, right? Like, who's going to be the first to admit that we're in war? I feel like no country wants to be the one to say, like, this is it.
I think if we make it to the far future, they're going to have a hard time quantifying World War III as separated from World War II and World War I. They're going to look at this all as like one long sustained time of violence that's been going on for maybe decades.
I don't think so. I mean, yeah, sort of. But World War I, before World War I, there was the war starts because of the tensions.
Then World War II is kind of born out of consequences from that. I mean,
exactly. But look, we call World War I and World War II separate, despite the fact that it's all basically the same conflict.
But then I'm thinking, like, past that, we've been kind of doing these weird psyops on each other through, the internet and causing all this turmoil, whether they're people claiming it's rigged elections and whatnot. I think they might add those to the idea of what the war has looked like, because we've entered this new digital space where the war is on like the digital battlefront, the physical battlefront. We're seeing it escalate now in the way we think of war in the old school ways, but I think it's been going on kind of psychologically.
Well, that makes me
years.
think of like TikTok, right? I mean, when TikTok rolled out, everyone realized what kind of connection it had to the Chinese government. It was sort of this question of, what warfare is being played, even though we are not actively at war. There is always an effort to have influence over another nation. I don't think that ever went away.
No. I have proof that TikTok is war. They banned Pop Culture Crisis.
I thought you were going to say because they created Dylan Mulvaney, but that's also true.
So we have there's another show at Timcast.com, Pop Culture Crisis, hosted by Brett Dasovic and Mary Morgan. Guests on Friday. It's very similar to Timcast IRL in its structure: super chats, commentary, stories, podcasts live every Monday through Friday, 3 to 5, and it's not a big political show. It's talking about like, oh, hey, this new movie came out, this new video game. The point was to be able to have some way that we could talk about pop culture issues in this company when we're mostly talking about news. TikTok banned them.
What was the reason?
Community guidelines violations. I call shenanigans. I think the real issue is controlling influence of an adversary, making sure that the work we do can't expand. Timcast IRL got banned from TikTok a while ago, and then for no real reason given. They don't want us to be able to have influence because the narrative and the message that we share is good for the United States. And the narrative and message that's on TikTok, Dylan Mulvaney, for instance, is destroying the future generations.
I got banned from TikTok right after I posted a video of me on InfoWars. And I think Alex's voice just like trips a wire on TikTok, and it was like immediately gone. And I was like, I don't even care. I don't even like TikTok like that. It was fun sharing videos of me on InfoWars, but it was immediate.
But TikTok has such an influence on culture right now. I mean, this is what happened after the October 7th conflict broke out. This was one of the things that came up, that the conversation that was happening between mainstream media, or maybe even on, let's say, Instagram, was different from the conversation that was happening among younger Gen Z on TikTok. The difference between the position on being, pro-Israel versus being pro-Palestine became obvious on social media more than anywhere else. I mean, it was social media and college campuses that really led people to believe that, oh, wait, they have conflicting opinions here. We didn't expect it.
Yeah.
Are you on TikTok?
No, I banned myself from TikTok.
Me too. I never got on.
The moment it came into existence.
Fair play.
Well, good. But it is still highly influential. Did you guys see that Florida is proposing banning social media for anyone under 16?
With parental consent, right? There's a couple states that are considering laws like this.
So a kid can go on if the parents consent to it, or
yeah,
what?
You have to have parental consent if you're a minor, if you're under 18.
Just like if a kid wants to go to an adult bookstore, he just needs parental consent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't remember which state. I'll look it up in a second. But one of them, you can't just say, "Oh yeah, my parents said it was okay." They have to sign a document and send it into the company, which I find interesting. But again, to your point, the challenges that this generation is facing in terms of trying to understand the challenges that face their young generation are very different than the parents who came out of World War I or the parents who came out of World War II. And I think so much of that has to do with the digital age. I mean, we always see that during times of threat, like after 9/11, theoretically, this was a point where a lot of people enlisted in the military, and there was a sort of spike in patriotism. But that goes away. People have their own questions about the government's actions. This generation has seen so much tension and conflict. And in fact, the fact that they're always plugged in, they're always seeing clips of awful things all the time. Could you inspire them to come together? I don't think you can.
So you're saying that social media created the perfect candidates for drone operators?
Maybe, or just the perfect candidates to be disengaged because they are ultimately overstimulated by everything they see.
I think it created a generation of broken-brained people.
Well, that's what the biggest danger is. As my children became teenagers, and of course I could watch on my iPhone what apps they were downloading, and my 14-year-old son downloads Snapchat. Oh, heck no. That comes off now. Yep. You take it off or I take the phone instantly.
Yeah, Snapchat's creepy.
Well, it was creepy, but look, those guys on his baseball team, they're sharing photos, pictures, and it would be incredibly easy for them to make that fatal mistake, and they're branded as a sexual predator for the rest of their life.
Yeah, there have been instances where teenagers share photos of themselves, and it doesn't matter. Law doesn't say you or anyone else. The law just says a photo of a minor. Done.
That's it.
And so they've had 14-year-old boys and girls have to register as sex offenders because they took pictures of themselves and shared it, but that's the law says.
Or there's been a couple cases where people will connect with them, effectively catfish them. They'll send a nude photo or whatever, and then they'll blackmail them and say we have this, we're going to ruin your life. There was I think a kid from Minnesota who killed himself over this. I mean, this is a new danger that I think parents have never had to contend with because they're basically inviting strangers into their home constantly through the cell phone.
I want to jump to this story from The Telegraph, hosted by Yahoo News. World War III is approaching fast, and too few are willing to admit why. Well, the article is very interesting. It does mention that there was a drone attack on a U.S. base near Jordan, but it mentions the core reason is that authoritarian regimes are failing. Iran and Russia, for instance, struggling to keep themselves afloat, are going to start making moves. I think it's actually a really good argument. Faced with an existential crisis, either economically, due to population collapse or otherwise, look, a drowning person they thrash about violently. And, they say when you're going to rescue someone who's drowning, you have to approach them from behind. Otherwise, they drag you down with them. For these countries that are facing existential crises, and that includes the United States, there's an option. Go to war. And we've seen it time and time again. And there's a lot of parallels to everyone's favorite empire, the Roman Empire. But I want to point out a few very important things. The World Socialist website, we love them. They report British Army Chief issues call for conscription and whole of nation mobilization for war. It's not just Britain. Sweden has issued a call for their citizens to prepare for war, and there have been reports that people have begun signing up to be conscripted. So in Sweden, they have a system where you fill out a questionnaire and determine whether or not you will be forced to join the war effort. France 24 says, Sweden's call for population to prepare for war sparks panic and criticism. Now, I don't consider the World Socialist website to be all that credible, but here's the interesting thing. I believe conscription is the appropriate word based on the facts. Corporate news doesn't want to say conscription because of what it means to the average person. So, of course, the Times.co.uk says, UK must train citizens for war with Russia, says Army Chief. Let me just try that one for you again. UK must train citizens for war with Russia. In other words, citizens should prepare to be conscripted into war. The Times doesn't want to say it. Corporate press doesn't want to publicly state, we will conscript you and force you to go to war, because that is never popular. And I believe if all the big outlets said right now, Sweden and the UK have issued calls for conscription, then there would be a major push against escalation to stop the war. So they want to keep that out of sight, out of mind. But in the end, for those that are here in the United States, if Joe Biden decides tonight to issue a retaliatory strike on, say, the coast of Iran or something, or on specific targets, and he says, for too long, Iran has been supplying the Houthi rebels and other militia groups in Iraq and Syria, and this has now resulted in the death of 3 American citizens. America will retaliate. We will not back down. If he strikes Iran and Iran says we're going to war and then calls in their allies and this escalates dramatically, do not be surprised if they start sending out draft orders.
I have, unfortunately, a son of draft age. And when I say unfortunately, it's not unfortunate
like
that I have
him.
a son.
It's
I like my
unfortunate that
son.
he's draft age.
It's unfortunate that he is draft age. And it is, as a father, not something that I want to see happening, obviously. But in my entire life, though, I've always grown up always thinking that if we're attacked, if our assets are attacked overseas, that we must retaliate. The problem today is I don't believe anything anymore. I don't believe anything. Right. Yep. I mean, and when we start talking about conscription in Sweden or especially in the UK, it's like Orwell spinning around going, "I told you so. I told you so."
I love my father, but I remember that one of the first big fights we had, I was maybe 11 or 12. We were watching some war footage on TV, and I told him, I will never be drafted. They'll try, and I'll never fight those wars. I don't know, it just felt inherent to my soul. He got really mad, like, how dare you not want to protect your country and stuff. But my dad buys into a lot of like the corporate press. Although watching Fox 5 and stuff, he buys into that whole narrative of patriotism.
And he's from an older generation.
Yeah, and I get it, and I get why he was mad. I always thought about that fight, but I believe I double down on that feeling I had then. More.
But you know what? It's sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
That there used to be a generation of people who said, I believe in my country wholeheartedly, I will fight for them.
Yep.
But the problem is, we have seen time and time again, the military-industrial complex and special interests send young men, mostly men, off to die for no reason other than their bottom line.
Yeah, and I should add to that, because of what Tim just said, I grew up next to a military base, seeing basically people who are my surrogate brothers and sisters, older brothers and sisters who were cadets, come back with no limbs, going to die for wars that made no sense. So that was the world I was born up into, and it made absolutely no sense.
Yeah, this is the conversation my family had when my brother enlisted and he deployed to Afghanistan with the Marine Corps. It was like, but why are we here? Like, right. I respect that was the path he thought was right for him, and everything else. But also, is this the operation that I think is most value for your time? Not to mention all the risk, but all service members' families are going to worry about the risk. It was like, we don't even need to be here. Yeah, and you're going anyways.
Yeah, risk is important. Yeah. And we should be, and the military to some degree can be important. But what has become the industrial complex that Eisenhower warned about, we are living in that horrible nightmare right now.
If we can't clearly define that the answer to that question, why are we here? Why are we going? That's why we have to have Congress make these decisions and not unilaterally made by one decrepit old senile man or whoever's controlling.
Yeah, wow. I usually call him a reanimated corpse. You're very, very nice to him.
Sorry. Yeah. Well, it's because I'm much closer to his age than you are.
You are doing way better than that man is. Man, I'll put in quotes.
That's the thing, too. Trump and Biden are not so far off in age, and there's obviously a huge difference. I mean, there are other politicians that are close to Biden in age, and he is just not doing well. No. At a certain point, you have to just feel unkind, being like, you are falling apart, sir, but you really are.
We got a funny super chat Maury says Gen Z is not fighting for this country. LOLOL. Here's a thought. Excuse me, sir. I noticed that you just illegally crossed the border. Would you like to be a citizen of this country? Here's a gun. We're sending you to Ukraine. The likelihood, I think, is actually fairly great in the event of a major war that the U.S. Look, it used to be. I love the history of rifling. There used to be. I love the story of like the last samurai in Japan. They were considered high-ranking, high-class, high-status, trained warriors. And then we bring them rifles. And we're like, you don't need to train anybody. You just hand it to them, you tell them to point and shoot. And all of a sudden, the samurai are considered, they're much, much less important. You don't need to train someone from birth to be a fighter anymore when you can hand a gun to somebody. Yeah. So I don't think people realize that with all these migrants coming through the border, U.S. doesn't care at all. If they're like, if we can bring in 6 million people, all the people on the right keep saying military-age males. Yeah, congratulations. The U.S. government says we got 6 million military-age males, and we'll tell them, you have no choice. You are fighting on our behalf.
The question is what direction are they going to point the gun?
Doesn't matter.
Whichever
Literally
way the
does not
government
matter.
tells them
You just drop 6. You start transporting these people en masse to an enemy nation, and it's bedlam for that country, no matter what. I mean, you look at what's happening in the United States because of it. These people sleeping in airports, the conflict, the chaos. This is not even conflict. It's just them literally being there causing problems. You look at the United States saying, we're going to give you weapons. You win that war, you're a citizen of the United States. A bunch of them are going to say, you got it, boss.
But
even if they don't, just sending them over to Iran or whatever is going to cause chaos.
Sounds like the Roman Empire to me.
Yeah. Oh, and to me, the question is like, if they are then back here and they're like, yes, thank you, government, you gave me my citizenship and I can fire a gun. And they're like, now attack fellow citizens because we said so. The loyalty is concerning me. I actually thought you were going to go a different direction, which is like, I would be fine to send our military to our southern border to defend it.
Yeah,
I don't know why we would go other places.
I think the good news here is if we do send a bunch of these criminal aliens in the United States and say you can be a citizen if you go fight in Iran or whatever, the good news is the U.S. doesn't keep its promise to its veterans. So once they come back, they'll be completely discarded and the right won't have to worry about them becoming citizens.
This is very grimcast today. We're very grimcast.
Yeah.
Well,
it's hard not to be when you're seeing this stuff in the news.
Yeah.
Seeing this corpse about to announce more
Hey.
war. It's terrible.
No mean tweets.
That's right. Thank God. Thank God. I just keep
They
thinking.
weren't even really that mean. Come on.
I just keep
They were
thinking
fun.
about.
We all had something to look forward to every day.
I love you ever see the journalist when they were like, since Trump, when Biden wins the White House, they're like, I used to have to wake up at 3 a.m. for my phone buzzing. A tweet from Donald Trump and my editor's like, you have to write it up now. And they're like, now he's gone and he got banned. We don't have to worry about it anymore. And it's finally, I'm relaxing.
Just good old war. That's all we get to write about.
We just have war. No tweets at 3
And
a.m.
I see these news items and I think about the way Biden talks and just how weak he is. And I'm afraid that this administration is going to want to overcompensate for his weakness by doing something real crazy in the next few days.
Like what?
Who knows, going to hard on Iran, dropping lots of bombs, just making the people know this is why you should vote for me. I'm a strong man. Joe Biden has never said once in his life, unless he plagiarized it from someone else, obviously. But I just, seeing all of that, I am like having flashbacks to the day they announced Biden winning and all the people in New York City dancing in the streets and popping champagne. I see Steven Pinker dancing in his living room on how happy he is. And this is what they got.
I think we will absolutely have some serious mobilization this year. I don't know if I would call it World War III. I mean, whatever. World War III is trending on Twitter, and people are keep saying that this move by Biden could trigger it. And there's smarter and more prominent political figures than me around the world saying we're already in it, especially because of this. Fine. But I got to say, it's an election year. Joe Biden's in trouble. I would not be surprised if we go to war with Iran. I think it's greater than chance.
Does wartime presidents get reelected?
Yeah, and I wonder if that could backfire on Joe Biden. But I think outside of whether or not Biden could get reelected, the deep state, intelligence agencies, and the military industrial complex are saying, if Donald Trump gets elected, we ain't getting our war. Go to war now, then even if Trump wins, he can't back us out.
But how bad does this world war have to be before it's a greater threat to our democracy than was January 6th?
I'm sorry. Nothing on earth could ever be more of a threat than January 6th. I don't even know why you'd...
That was like 10 9/11s. Yeah.
Yeah, it was all of them.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. No, I'm just
and that's a great point of like reading these articles where the UK must train citizens for war, how they can downplay anything, but also inflate like something like January 6th into the worst, the way the politicians talk about it. It's D-Day, it's Pearl Harbor, it's 9/11. But that's what they do. These are the tricks they play.
Yeah.
The death of language. This is what they constantly do. It's actually really scary because so many people still buy into it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Do you think people will shift their opinion on Biden if he were to take us into war? Do you think that could help him get reelected?
Every single time we have this situation with a president, that's what we expect is going to happen. That's where the whole wag the dog idea came from. And I just don't know that. First of all, I don't know that Biden is going to be there anyway. I don't know what the round table here consensus is. I'm saying he's not making it. I don't
because
think
he's not going to make it health wise, or they're going to pull him.
Oh, they're going to
pull
him. They're going to have to pull him. They have no choice. I mean, just watch him this past weekend. He can't find his way anywhere any longer. Yeah. All the signs are there. My father passed away as a result of Alzheimer's, and I'm watching this unfold.
Yeah.
What we saw in my own family.
Yeah.
So it's not going to happen. He's not going to be there. But whoever's pulling his puppet strings, maybe that's what they need is World War III.
Yeah. I think it's possible. Who's
I
pulling the puppet strings?
I think their hope is, look, when we have Trump, no new wars, timelines for withdrawal. Joe Biden gets in. What's the first thing he does? Reverses course. We get more troops. We get Syria, troops in Syria being bolstered. And whoever remembers us declaring war on Syria, just when was that? When did we deploy?
I don't think we ever declare war on anything anymore.
We get war in Ukraine. We get escalation with China. We've got U.S. strike groups moving through the Strait of Taiwan. You've got Venezuela and Guyana. It is bubbling up. And the military industrial complex guys are salivating. But they may be thinking, Joe can't win. Nikki Haley's in their back pocket. She says she's going to stay here until Super Tuesday. I could not believe it. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, we got a live event we're planning in Virginia for Super Tuesday. And I said, let's be real. It's not going to be a Super Tuesday. I don't know what it'll be. And then she comes out and she's like, I'm not backing out until at least then. It's like, okay, lady, but that's their plan. You got to get some kind of warmongers up there. But if they can't win, they'll take their consolation prize, war with Iran, before Trump gets in. And there's nothing you can't stop it. Joe Biden's the president. Republicans in Congress won't do anything. No. So literally, the best course of action is you vote for Trump and then hope he can wind things down as quickly as possible when he becomes president.
They're going to pull Biden, the Democrats, and then replace him with Nikki Haley. That's what they're going to do.
I'd be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think
how funny would that be?
That would be funny. I don't think she would actually do it.
She sounds a lot like them.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, this is what I'm so interested with Joe Manchin right now, because he said, I'm not going to run for Senate again in West Virginia. And he's been in since 2010, which the other fact of this that I love is that he got nominated or appointed to the Senate after Senator Robert Byrd died, in office at 96 after being in office for 51 years. I mean, the West Virginia Senate seat has just basically never been available in American history. But everything he's saying, I mean, he just had this interview with CNN saying the White House is controlled by far, far left people. And he said this a couple times about Biden. And so same with Dean Phillips, all of his stuff, if you look at his bio that he has on his official congressional website right now, is like, I am a moderate. So there is this movement within the party to say, we are actually not like them. Please don't lump us in with the rest of them.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the conspiracy theory that says Joe Biden will get reelected with the help of Taylor Swift. Did you guys see that Baltimore Sun said Taylor Swift should be the VP?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, I should actually pull that one up.
The Baltimore Sun?
She's very, very busy right now. I don't think she could actually
Baltimore
do
Sun
it.
wrote that after the Ravens lost?
Check us out.
That's very disloyal.
The Baltimore Sun. Forget Kamala Harris. Put Taylor Swift on Joe Biden's ticket. Reader commentary.
So she stops coming to football games.
And they said that people are excited about the Ravens, and the Baltimore Sun is excited because Taylor Swift might come to Baltimore to watch the game. Did some Googling, blah, blah, blah. She will be 35 years old on December 13th, 2024. Her net worth is $1.1 billion. She can afford to take what for her would be a volunteer job. Yada, 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 yada. Okay, for sure. Right now, you've got two big conspiracy theories that are kind of overlapping with each other. The Kansas City Chiefs beat the Baltimore Ravens. Everybody out here is pissed off. We're in Maryland, so everybody out here is Ravens fans, and they're losing it. They're saying the refs they're making bad calls. They weren't calling out pass interference. It's BS. They're pissed, but that's sports, right? Well, the conspiracy theory is Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. It's a psyop by, I'm assuming, the Democrats and the deep state, I guess, so that at the Super Bowl, she can endorse the Democratic Party and tell everyone to go vote? Is that's basically what the PSYOP plan is?
I guess.
That's her arc. She's been slowly getting into politics over the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, she endorsed Biden in 2020, but the thing is, she's not very helpful right now. She's literally on the international. She's about to start the international leg of her tour. It's not like it's very unlikely she's just going to drop in at Biden's campaign stops if Biden's even there himself.
I think this is a PSYOP. I think that's a fact.
In what way do you think
that two PR people got together and said, "Hey, Taylor Swift, would you like to do a celebrity relationship like we've done with insert every other celebrity? It'll make us a bunch of money." And she was like, "Sounds good." So it's a PSYOP in the sense, I'm being somewhat facetious, but I love when the left's going to take that one out of context. And my point is that this happens all the time. Celebrity publicists say, "Who can we put together?" The NFL was like, "That'd be great. We'd love to have Taylor at the games. How much will this cost?" Taylor's people are like, "Look, you show up to a bunch of games, you hang out with your friends, you do this fake relationship. Everybody makes hundreds of millions of dollars. The ratings are going to skyrocket for the NFL, and there's a lot of money to be made with the Super Bowl. You know how much ads cost. We bring in those ratings. There's going to be a ton of money." They offer her a bunch of money. I think it's more likely that she's just doing stupid publicist nonsense. That being said, I think the more plausible conspiracy theory is that ratings for the Super Bowl have been in decline. A U.S. cultural homogeneity has gone. I mean, we used to have Super Bowl, everybody watched Big Bang Theory. Now nobody does. And so there's this play we're going to create this romance love story, Travis and Taylor, and he's going to propose to her or something big at the Super Bowl. And if that's the case, all the people claiming that the game was rigged because the Ravens seem to have thrown the match or that the refs weren't calling it properly, it's because the Chiefs are going to win. Taylor Swift, and they're going to have their movie-esque romance, and Travis proposes to her or something. And what makes the most sense is it's publicity, it's marketing.
Is Kelsey part of the PSYOP, or is he being PSYOPed?
So
he thinks they're really together.
In the literal,
no.
In the literal sense of what I think is going on, Travis and Taylor are engaged in a publicity stunt. That's it. Look. I just want to stress this. Sorry, man. 10 of these happen per year. Publicists will be like, Jennifer Aniston and insert celebrity. Do you guys want to be seen together at the club and we'll get a bunch of press generated about you? So I look at this and I see it as no different. What, they started dating, at the beginning of the season? Is that when it was?
July.
In July?
I don't know when football season starts. I'll be honest with you.
Isn't that the
Isn't
beginning
that right
of the
before
season?
the beginning of the season? I don't know.
Training camp.
I feel weird because I'm typically the guy who thinks most things are PSYOPs, but this one, so it's weird that we've had this role reversal, but to me, this just seems like one of those organic things of her being a victim of propaganda, becoming this political activist over the last few years. We've seen her crying in that documentary she made about abortion.
But she barely is.
She barely is until
and the only real legislative issue I've seen her get behind is anti-stalking laws, which seems very applicable to her life.
Right.
But sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
No, I just think I also know these publicity stunts do happen. I also know there's history of things like the World Series being rigged. So these things are all plausible. We say these things, people might think we sound crazy. There's history, there's evidence of these things happening.
Yeah.
With her, I just feel like she's such a victim of the ideology that she's a part of and the news diet.
See,
I completely disagree. How many instances can you name of Taylor Swift doing political activism?
I think of that documentary. I think of her talking about Biden.
In private, one time she was talking with her parents about how she wanted to help Biden.
The only time I can think of it actively, other than the time she held up those Biden 2020 cookies, was when she campaigned for, was it not Marsh Blackwater?
That's what I'm talking about.
She was in Tennessee, and one of the issues she got specifically behind was anti-stalking laws.
And that was in support of Marsha?
I'm going to look it up because I don't want to say the wrong thing. I doubt it was in support of Marsha Blackburn.
I thought it was about abortion.
I'll tell you.
No, not abortion. It was anti-stalking for sure.
What really grinds my gears on this whole thing about everybody claiming she's a Democrat psyop is that she posted on Instagram that the Soros family robbed her.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I'm like, my friends, my brothers, when Taylor Swift says Soros bad, you go, Taylor is so right.
Amen.
And you go to all of her fans and you be like, can you believe what the Soroses did to Taylor?
Yes.
They're bad. And then what you do is when they're like, yeah, that is bad, you go, now look at this article about George Soros and everything else he does.
Such
and
a
they're
good
going to be
point.
like, wow, those are bad people.
Yeah.
She primed an entire generation to be aware of and angry with the Soroses. And for some reason, there are conservatives hell-bent on pushing the narrative that despite the fact she publicly complained she was robbed by them, she's secretly working for them.
No, if she's a psyop, my thought is that she's actually unintentionally a psyop for the country's pro-natalist movement. I love all those articles that are like, if they get engaged this summer, there will be a baby boom. Because all of these girls will look at their boyfriends and say, but where's my ring?
Right.
We need to have children immediately. Like when Taylor Swift declares that it is time, because I mean, what's interesting about her tour right now is it's the Eras tour, right? She's giving a little bit of music from everything she's put out. So she is sort of capstoning her career. She's got this attractive new boyfriend.
Okay.
She could push off the coast, have some kids, inspire women around her. I don't think it's a Democrat thing. I think it's a pro-natalist.
I'm
psyop.
actually going to combine what you both are saying, and I'm actually going to say screw what I was saying earlier about her not being a psyop, and actually she's positioning herself to become the new Soros. That's after that Eras is over, she becomes Soros.
What if the real what's happening is that China, through apps like TikTok and social media, have been manipulating digital platforms to make young people sterilize themselves, get abortions, and push all this stuff. And the real psyop is, as you described, getting Taylor Swift to have this movie-esque romance relationship at the Super Bowl, then announce she's having babies to get all the young girls to try and be wives and have babies and reignite America.
Look, I'm in love with you guys. I've had this. Someone can go into the archives of Pop Culture Crisis. I gave this theory a long time ago because when she broke up with her other boyfriend of 6 years, which by the way, that's too long to date. I'm sorry, it just is. She would write these lyrics about how like she wants to be married, she wants to have a child, whatever else, and then they broke up. And so I honestly think she's 34 years old. She is ready to settle down.
Yeah.
She's at the capstone of her career. She is going to lead our country's rising birth rates, and I think we should all thank her for that.
But let's
That'd be cool.
going back to this big thing where everyone's claiming she's going to endorse Democrats. They're saying it frustrates me, but a lot of conservatives are like, she's secretly working for Soros. She's going to endorse Joe Biden. Now the Democrats win. Let me show you some numbers to assuage your fears. A Taylor Swift Instagram post helped drive a surge in voter registration from September 22nd, 2023. I saw a post by that guy, what's his, Brian Tyler Cohen or whatever his name is. I don't know. They love playing these weird games. He said, voter.org saw 150,000 people visit the site and a 115% increase in 18-year-old voters. The wild thing about it is, first, the 150,000 people showing up on that day is relative to nothing. He didn't say it was an increase or a decrease. It's quite literally just their standard traffic. Check this out from NPR. They say, when Taylor Swift speaks, her fans listen. No, they don't. That's actually fake news. On Tuesday morning, the singer posted a short message on Instagram encouraging her 272 million followers to register to vote. Afterward, the website she directed her fans to, the nonpartisan nonprofit vote.org, recorded more than 35,000 registrations, according to the organization. They say the 35,000, and you notice how there's this like muck in the middle, this patter. You scroll down, the 35,252 new registrations on National Voter Registration Day were the most since 2020, the organization said, and a 23% jump over last year. Do you know what that means? The most we can attribute to Taylor Swift's post is 8,107 voters. She's got 272 million followers. They're not all American, but I'd have to estimate more than half are. Well, maybe even not. About 272 million, yeah, she's probably got 100 million followers.
I think half is an easy thing to
Half,
estimate.
yeah, because she's an American personality, but with massive worldwide appeal. Even 100 million. Half of those are probably already registered to vote. So let's say 50 million unregistered. Let's you know what? I'm sorry. Let's be as fair as possible. Let's say only 50 million of her followers are American. Half are unregistered. 25 million? She got 8,000 people to register. I'm sorry. She could not get people to sign up for her website for free. And everyone's like, she's going to endorse the Democrats. Yo, I ain't worried about it at all. When Brian Tyler or whatever his name is tweeted this, I checked the numbers. And the fascinating thing is, when it said a 115% increase in 18-year-old voters, that number was like 17. It was like a remarkably small number increase. And it's like it was a 72% increase from 2019 and 115 from last year. And I'm like, wait a minute. That means even less people registered the year before.
How many people has Scott Pressler personally registered in comparison?
I think
who was more effective, Taylor
Let's get
Swift or
Scott
Scott
Pressler.
Pressler?
Taylor Swift and Culture
No
War.
question. Substantially more than Taylor Swift.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Easily.
I wouldn't doubt it. I much like modern feminism being demeaning to women, this idea that Taylor could change a woman's vote is weird, because I also wonder how many conservative women are fans of Taylor's, and they could separate
Tons of
her
them.
politics
Tons of
with her
them.
art.
This
I see a lot on
for
Twitter.
so many people.
Can you do that?
You know what a weird idea, right?
Can you correlate the apparent disinterest in her fans
Yeah, it'd be fun to do that.
and their politics to her fans' taste in music?
Guarantee it's a lot.
I guarantee Facebook's
Guarantee it.
algorithm knows your political persuasion.
Oh, God, yes.
Even if
Yes.
you don't say you're a Republican, it'll map it all out.
For sure.
So for Taylor Swift, I mean, how many on Instagram? They know exactly who's voting. And we know this is true because we had Dr. Robert Epstein on, and he said that Facebook sent Democrats, 100% of Democrats got a reminder to vote on Election Day. Only, what was it, 59% of Republicans got the same message?
People need to watch that episode. It's on the Culture War. It's a crazy, crazy episode.
Like, how do you cheat an election? It's really easy. Facebook says all Democrats get reminded to vote, half are Republicans. That's it. They're allowed to do it. It's free speech.
Yeah.
What did they do wrong?
Because they
rigged
didn't
the game.
promise to do anything, right? Like they don't owe it
We
to
just-
you to remind equally.
It's
We spoke.
free speech until the FBI comes and sits in your office, Mr. Zuckerberg, and tells you what you can and cannot publish on your platform.
Well, let's be real. They're likely going to his office and saying, make sure to remind all the Democrats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think
don't.
of Taylor Swift?
For
What do you think her
Republicans.
effect on our nation's political landscape is?
Well, I've been in the music business long enough to understand her connection. I actually get it, although I'm not a fan. I can look at her. I get it. I can.
You're not a closeted Taylor Swift fan?
No, not in the least. But I can
Shake
listen
It
to
Off?
songs.
I don't believe you.
No, what I'm going to say, if you listen to the song and you can see and understand, if you know anything about music at all, you understand why that song connects. But that doesn't mean that I like that kind of music. It's not what I listen to. I've had to sing it before myself.
I like
videos of that.
I like Taylor Swift's music.
Probably.
Not all of it. Like some of the songs, actually, I'm just like, that's not a good song. But she's got her hits that I really do like. However, I must say, if you asked me to choose a song and like put me up between Taylor Swift and like Tool, I'm gonna pick Tool every single time. I will put Sober on repeat 100 times before I play a single Taylor Swift song. That being said, if Shake It Off comes on or Trouble, like I know the words a little bit, like, and they're fun songs, I wouldn't choose to listen to it, but I like it. You know what I mean? It's like you can like some kind of food. You don't order it if you get the choice. You get the choice, you're going to go for like a, I don't know, like a ribeye, medium rare. But if someone gave you a filet, you'd be like, oh, that's good too.
No, I've had my own corporate dance band for 23 years. We have to play Shake It Up.
Right.
It's mandated by law.
It is.
Corporate dance band is a good name for a band.
It actually
is.
should
Yeah.
be.
Let's jump to this story where it's getting freaky. Now, everybody thinks there's a PSYOP conspiracy theory, and this one actually made it substantially worse. X blocks searches for Taylor Swift after explicit AI fakes circulate. So long story short, on Twitter /X, a bunch of extremely graphic images of Taylor Swift started emerging. Yo, these pictures were crazy. And it never ends because it takes 2 seconds to make more. But now, at a time when everyone is suggesting that Taylor Swift is part of a conspiracy to rig the Super Bowl so that she can help the Democrats win in some way, this controversy around AI images happens, which results in one of the biggest social media platforms in the world shutting down your ability to search for things related to her. This is a media blackout on Taylor Swift. The Twitter X is the news. I mean, even Elon is talking about it. All these news industries, news organizations are collapsing because we get our information directly from the pipeline on X. Now, what happens if X says, for whatever the amount of time was, you cannot search for Taylor Swift? Was there a video circulating of Taylor Swift accepting money from George Soros? I don't mean that literally. I'm making a joke. But like, what would, if someone said, I got the scoop, I have the proof right here, Taylor Swift accepting money, and they post it, nobody can find it.
Yeah. This is like the deranged evolution of the Barbara Streisand effect. What happened with the photos of her house back in the day. You take something away, it makes everyone want to go look at it. And this is like a terrible thing to want to go look up, but I guarantee you it only made people look it up more. But yeah, I see that point. It's almost like they're Hunter Bidening the Hunter Biden laptop story to the Taylor Swift story now. So Nuix is just like old Twitter in some regard.
Is that disappointing? Did you expect
Yeah, I wasn't
better?
not surprised though. I've seen a lot of things that this new company does that are similar to the old one. You know, I like it. It's more fun, but and I don't. The images are terrible. I wish they'd get rid of all the Nancy Pelosi nude AI photos, honestly, as well, because they are damaging my soul and people, they keep popping up in my feed. I'm like, why?
He's not searching for them. He
Why?
swears.
Yeah. Imagine. I really need that Pelosi cleavage. They're gonna clip that. Oh man,
Great.
Great.
Didn't I see today that Elon, his reaction to this was they're going to add up another 100 employees just to monitor content?
No.
I saw that. Yeah, today.
Oh, that
yeah.
makes me so nervous.
We have a super chat from Trump. Trump won. He says, look at Benny Johnson's ex. Soros owns her entire music catalog. I'm going to break this down for you and help you understand exactly what's going on and why Taylor Swift is your greatest opportunity. Conservatives, don't waste it. Benny Johnson posts, flashback, Taylor Swift. Let me play the clip for you. It's 15 seconds. And you can listen to Taylor in her own words.
I had the chance to purchase my music. I had the chance to purchase my music outright. My entire catalog was sold to Scooter Braun's Ithaca Holdings in a deal that I'm told was funded by the Soros family, 23 Capital, and the Carlyle Group.
What does that mean? These people who believe that she's a Democrat psyop think she is now sold to Soros's family or funded, sold to someone by that, and that she now has to work for them. No. Taylor Swift publicly slammed the Soros family on numerous occasions for stealing her music. They basically outbid her for the rights to her own song, to her own master recordings. She got mad because the amount they were trying to spend on the songs was not actually worth what the songs could generate. So she was losing all of the work she had did for years. She, again, publicly slams them, then says, I own the artistic composition, but they bought the masters. I will re-record all of my music to sink Soros's $300 million investment. One of the most epic smackdowns of the Soros family. Let me stress, it was something like $300 million. And by her going out and re-recording the masters, she ripped that investment from them to zero while publicly calling them out. The opportunity here for anybody who actually looked into this and paying attention is you've got an army of teenage girls who love Taylor. And when she slams Soros, you go to them and, like, if you're like a dad and your daughter loves Taylor Swift, you can go to your daughter and say, what happened? What was Taylor Swift talking about with the Soros family taking her music from her? And they're going to be like, yeah, because they wanted to try and make money off it. And then Taylor had to record everything. And then you, as the dad, can connect with your daughter and go, that's dirty. Why would they do that to Taylor? Man, those Soros people sure are bad. There you go.
This is the argument that people are making right now. Like, I'll see these posts from dads being like, I saw this video of this dad with like his young girls, like maybe like, 2, 5, and 7 or something. And they're all cheering, watching the Super Bowl or the Chiefs game because Taylor Swift is there. And they're like, wow, so exciting. Taylor Swift is organically driving women to like bond with their dads and to get into football, whatever else. Like, conservative dads could do this too. They could use George Soros. They could talk about these things. They'd probably be pretty interesting conversations about copyright law and like intellectual property. They're just at the same, for whatever reason, deciding like, no, we can't talk about this because Taylor Swift endorsed Joe Biden one time.
She endorsed Joe Biden. She's in the documentary saying she's a Democrat, all that stuff. Of course, Hollywood is. This is what they do. Big donors, big companies, they go to celebrities and they say, you're on our side or else. In this instance, they ripped her off. They bought her music out from underneath her in a dirty move, and her statement was something like, "I hope it was worth it," because two things: the amount of money they bought the music for, the music recordings would not generate that much money, so she couldn't pay it. She's like, "I'd have to spend a third of my net worth to buy the rights to my music, and I would never make that money back." But she then re-recorded everything, re-released those albums. And now no one will ever care about whatever the Soros family bought. So you can criticize her for being a Democrat all day and night, but I am flabbergasted by the conservatives who keep pushing the fake narrative, the lie. I don't get it. Seriously, someone spell it out for me why they keep lying and trying to make it seem like she's working for George Soros. There's nothing, I don't get it.
I can't answer that question, but I mean, notwithstanding the loss of opportunity that conservatives or Republicans had by what she did by coming out against Soros, speaking ill of him, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, at the end of the day, another oligarch was going to buy her music anyway, because the mob has always owned the music industry, and ultimately they own the contracts.
I'm sorry, this is the psyop. Like, guys, if there's a psyop, the psyop is sock puppet accounts on social media posting things like this. George Soros with Taylor Swift on puppet strings. I get it. It's actually not a completely unfair thing, but how can you guarantee to sever any opportunity someone had to actually have a celebrity on your side? It's this. This is so backwards Taylor Swift publicly criticizes Soros on numerous occasions. And for some reason, the entire wave of social media posts from the right is that she's working for him. I'm like, that's a psyop right there. I don't know who's doing it or what, but I'm sorry. If I'm going to believe a conspiracy theory, it's that deep state whoever or whatever it is you guys think, we're like, oh no, Taylor Swift came out against George Soros. We need control of this. Quick, pretend to be MAGA and claim she's working for Soros. And it worked.
Okay, but I also have like 5 layers of tinfoil hats on at all times, and I can be like, well, Soros told her you got to come out publicly against me. So then people don't buy the psyop.
I would agree with that if the narrative was she was against Soros.
Right.
But it's not. All these conservatives just keep hammering that claim over and over again, and I'm like, that's weird. Because imagine if conservatives' dads were able to go to their daughters and say, I agree with you, I support you, I can't believe they would do this to Taylor Swift. And now you're going to have a dad. So here's what happens. These teenage girls are watching the Super Bowl and the dad is sitting there going, she works for George Soros. And the girls are going, Dad, she hates Soros. No, she works for him. Creating a divide between the conservative dads and their daughters. Because the dads believe something that's wrong. And I don't know why people keep pushing it.
It's almost
and then they don't have children. And also our teenage pregnancies go up and it ruins everything. Conservative dads, this is your moment.
Come on. It's almost like Q fractured into a billion different conspiracy theories. And now people are just, everything's a conspiracy, which I understand because lots of things are conspiracy theories and the government does really dark, deranged things all the time secretly. But yeah, this doesn't feel that way to me.
It's just, we're such a low trust society, right? You can't trust anything that comes out.
Kind of should be.
We can't even look at Taylor Swift dating like the hunky football player and be like, wow, good for her.
But it's also anything that comes out of Hollywood, I distrust.
Yeah, I think you made a good point about her being 34. Like, here's a conspiracy theory for you. Taylor Swift is about to hit the wall.
Well, also, what else is she going to do, right? Like, she is already the highest paid female musician. She was one of the youngest people to win all kinds of accolades. Like, where does she go from here? The thing that she doesn't have in her life is she has like a family, like a mom and a dad and whatever, but like she doesn't have her own kids. Her best friend is Blake Lively, who has 4 kids, I think, with Ryan Reynolds. Like, you guys, you're all men.
You're
so
going
you don't
deep
understand.
into this. I don't even know who these people are.
This is the thing.
Blake Lively?
Actress
married to Ryan Reynolds? Come on.
I know Ryan Reynolds.
His wife. Yeah. They have lots of kids together.
So they'll adopt Taylor.
No, I think she is like one of their, I don't know, whatever. But
Wait, what?
The thing is, I think she's one of their like
like a
godparents or
godparent,
something.
yeah.
But like, I think ultimately Taylor Swift is so interesting to me because she represents this thing that all women were supposed to do, which is to rise to the top and to be mad at men because they take their career away, even though they're clearly succeeding where men could never succeed. I'm sorry, there's just no male pop star that has this kind of attention over female fans. And yet ultimately she gets out of this 6-year relationship. She's singing constantly about wanting to start a family and get married. And now she's with this other guy who's been on his podcast saying, yes, I want to be married. He does his podcast with his brother, who's happily married to like his college sweetheart with multiple children. Like, this is the rise of a pro-natalist, pro-family movement, and conservatives just need to embrace it.
You made an interesting
Stop making
point.
everything
Or
bad.
steal it.
Co-opt it. Come on,
Exactly.
team.
If the truth is that Taylor Swift is a big psyop and she's like gonna go Democrat, whatever, the narrative from the right needs to be to take control of the river, that massive force coming at you, and divert it by, instead of attacking the things she does with Democrats, support the things she's doing. Like, I love that Taylor says she wants to have a family. She's right. And Travis saying the same thing. How wholesome. I actually am really inspired she doesn't like George Soros. What a good person. Make that the focal point.
Right. Also, I've been thinking, I'm not a fan of hers. I can appreciate some songs, but like the work ethic that went into re-recording everything is crazy. Like, didn't Michael Jackson buy all the Beatles music catalog?
That's the last time I cared about who bought whose catalog was when Jackson bought all of the Beatles publishing.
Can you tell that story really quick? Isn't it like McCartney? Didn't McCartney tell Jackson you should own music catalog, and then Jackson turned around and bought the Beatles?
He actually outbid McCartney for his own songs. But see, here's the difference between what we're talking about now and then.
Yeah.
There was no politics involved in that at all. Now everything is shaded by politics.
Totally
now.
agree.
We can't get away from it.
Nope.
Man, it's just Taylor Swift pulled off what may be one of the biggest FUs to the Soros family ever. They bought music for something, I think it was $300. Can you fact check me on this? I think it was $300 million. And then by her re-recording it all, she ripped $300 million out of their pockets.
Man.
That's because their investment becomes zero.
So they bought the masters, not the publishing.
So she owns the artist composition.
Right.
Which means the song's
Correct.
core.
Yeah.
Okay.
The recordings she did were bought by Soros and the Carlyle Group and these other investors. By re-recording it, that investment was worthless now.
Right.
Just absolutely worthless.
Yeah.
And it's
He sold it for it's never been disclosed, but they believe it's north of $300 million.
By he, you
That-
mean Scooter Braun?
Scooter Braun.
Scooter Braun.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Wow.
she was saying something like, it's not worth it. Imagine all of those songs on streaming platforms. How much money will it generate? Nowhere near that much in their lifetime. That means she would have to, it may have been that they knew Taylor wanted her career. This is her life's work. And they were probably thinking like, you're a billionaire. If you want it, we're going to drive the price up to 300 million. You'll never make that money back. It's ours.
Was she smart enough to realize it wasn't worth it?
Yes. And then she said no.
Okay, well, now I'm a fan.
And here's the thing. Maybe that
Converting Swiftie fans.
this may have been the move
horrible.
to try and control her. Basically, you're a high profile celebrity. You work for us now, or we will own your life's work and you can do nothing about it. Instead, she goes, I will re-record every single song and you will get nothing.
You know who told her to do that? Kelly Clarkson.
Really?
Yeah. I'm just telling you,
This
it's
is-
like a
it's
fascinating
interesting,
wave of characters
'cause, like,
that
I
you
could-
wouldn't expect.
I could see this is a great way to bridge the divide between Kanye and Taylor. It should happen because this is all Kanye was railing against a year ago. My contracts, people owning my stuff. This is what Prince talked about. And like
This is why
these are
Gilmore
thi-
Girls came off the air.
and
It's
she
all
ca-
the things that are important
She came
to
out
me.
unscathed. I don't think Kanye did.
Let's jump to completely away from American pop culture and go back to Civil War. I got good news for everybody. From American Military News, 18,000 Border Patrol agents support Texas and blast the Biden administration. A statement released Thursday by the NBPC, which is the official union of over 18,000 Customs and Border Protection employees, pushed back against what the union described as fake news reports that the Border Patrol agents would be arresting Texas National Guardsmen at the border. Quote, rank and file BP agents are not going to start arresting Texas National Guard members for following their lawful orders. That's fake news. The Texas National Guard and rank and file BP agents work together and respect each other's jobs, period. If Texas National Guard members have lawful orders, then they have to carry out those orders. So this is great. And I think it shows the emperor has no clothes. Joe Biden is impotent here. I don't know that I believe it completely. Things are always not what they seem. It may be that the Customs and Border Patrol agents are, no, we're not going to do any of that stuff. They're doing lawful orders. But behind the scenes, CBP is just saying, say this, avoid conflict, or the union is avoid the conflict, but try and keep doing your job. I want to be optimistic. Joe Biden says, go fight. CBP says, we're not going to fight over this. Texas National Guard, they're in the right. No conflict. We move on. I think it's a good thing because, as I've said before, the win condition for the left is a civil war starting, not fighting a civil war and winning. So I want to give a shout out to all the, you know what I love? These leftists who love putting my name in their YouTube videos and then arguing something I've never been in favor of. They're like, Tim Pool's arguing about civil war, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I have literally said your win condition is starting a civil war and we want to avoid it at all costs. So thank you and have a nice day. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Good news?
Yeah, I know when I was with Carrie Lake at her Senate announcement, she shared letters. She read one with me from a guy who was working Border Patrol who's like, this place is defunct. They're not running this place properly. We need help. I shared that one letter in the last Carrie Lake article I wrote for Scanner. So like people obviously are going against the administration. They have to because they see just so much fentanyl pouring over that border. It's terrifying.
Wasn't there like some big story where someone died from fentanyl-laced pot recently?
I didn't see it.
I can't remember exactly what the story was. I just know that it came up because someone was asking me about it and like, how does these things happen? I'm like, it sounds like they're trying to kill people by doing it.
I believe. Yeah. I believe they are.
I'm blanking on who it was, but it's a famous celebrity son.
Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't it?
The guy from Pawn Stars, right?
Yeah, Pawn Stars.
Oh, that's
He
what it
yeah.
was.
He
Right,
said,
right.
and he literally
Yeah.
blamed the border.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
At Carrie Lake's announcement, she filled the stage with parents who lost children to fentanyl in various ways. Whether it was like, and bring it back to Prince really quick. People forget Prince was on different pain meds. Someone gave him a counterfeit pill that was fentanyl, and that's what
Same
killed
with
him.
Mac Miller, right?
Yes,
Didn't Mac Miller
supposedly.
die?
I'm not sure if it was fentanyl with Mac Miller or something else, but
I don't know either,
I know with Prince it was. It's everywhere. It's prevalent, and no one's safe. Not Prince, and not the people in these border towns and the rest of this country.
Des Dickerson, who was Prince's guitar player in the Revolution, he's the guy that wore the kamikaze headband in 1999, sang some of the song. You know the song.
Yes.
Well, Des has been a good friend of mine for over 30 years, and he told me absolutely 100% that Prince, that was an accident. This was not something that Prince did to himself by.
Oh yeah,
this was,
I believe that.
Yeah,
and they never caught the person who gave him the counterfeit. Right. We know Michael Jackson was killed by a doctor, and he spent 2 years in jail. But Prince's, whoever gave him the counterfeit drug that was fentanyl, I never
Mac
caught.
Miller was fentanyl, and they put whoever gave it to him in jail as well. It's weird. I mean, I feel like the obvious answer is close the border, but people have been so averse to it for so long. We're really feeling the consequence of it now.
I feel like it's another easy attack vector for China.
Yes.
Pot laced with fentanyl.
Yep.
And then a bunch of young people die.
I mean, isn't someone from the Biden administration is meeting with a representative from China this week, I'm pretty sure. This happened once before. Earlier this year, Biden met with Xi Jinping in San Francisco, I think. And they were like, so tell us that you'll stop, because a lot of stuff that goes into fentanyl is manufactured in China and shipped to Mexico and comes across the border. And he was like, so please tell us you'll stop that. And they were like, we'll see. We'll think about it. We'll work with you. Like the fact that we couldn't even get China to commit to being like, okay, fine, we'll stop shipping fentanyl. We're in a weak position because we made our border weak. And by the way, Chinese people will fly to both South America and to Canada to then traverse into America through the border. Like we're bad on both sides, right? Yep. Like the U.S.-Mexico border has been weak for a long time, and we're seeing the effect of it now. But I think it's also important to start talking about what's happening on the northern border, where they are seeing a rise in illegal crossings. And especially during this time of year, it's incredibly dangerous for both the border forces that are out there and the people who are crossing, because you can actually freeze to death.
Right. I appreciate that you bring that up, the Canadian on the cast bringing that up. Thank you very much.
Look, team, Canada's important too. It hangs out there, but not all Canada is Justin Trudeau's Canada.
I have watched with my own eyes in real time fentanyl being tracked by United States Department of the Military, private contractors from China. I've actually seen it on the computer screen being tracked, and yet when it gets to Mexico, somehow it makes it across.
Is this like some Operation Fast and Furious situation? Like we know where it is, we're tracking it, and then it just backfires?
It's a sincere desire to stop it, but once it arrives in Mexico, then it breaks down from there.
Crazy. The cartels are running some of those border towns. I mean, the amount of fentanyl is millions of pounds at one of those places. I forget what town it was, maybe near Tucson, but it's apocalyptic how much fentanyl is coming through.
Yeah, and the idea that China doesn't know about this when they have like one of the most extensive surveillance states in the world, they're saying, "Oh, we don't know where it's coming from. We have no idea who's making this." Sorry, guys.
That's just the fentanyl they're catching at the border.
Right,
There's so much coming through.
I'm having a real hard time deciding whether I'm more afraid of what's happening in the Middle East right now. Are we going to have World War III, or about what's going on at the border? I'm still struggling between the two.
I think we should put the border first. I mean, that's my personal opinion, right? Like, I can't say everything that's going to happen abroad, but I can say it is crazy to me that we aren't all like immediately secure the border. It's crazy to me that Texas is saying, or the federal government is saying, Texas, take that razor wire out so people swim across the Rio Grande rather than go through a legal port of entry while they're trying to illegally enter this country. Like, these are things that are within our control, and we're actively saying, but look over there, look over there. Should we get involved over there? Yeah. Why don't we shut our own door? I mean, I've said this before a couple times on the show. We should lock our door before we say, by the way, this neighborhood is dangerous. Like, if the world's a dangerous place right now, why aren't we shoring up resources at home?
But to Tim's point earlier, it's because the military-industrial complex wants to have the war over there because they can then play with all of their big toys. They can't play with their big toys.
Well, why don't they suggest deploying troops to the border, right? I mean, maybe it wouldn't give you the paycheck that it would if you were engaged internationally, but at least then you would still have some income coming through. Not that you should be in support of the military-industrial conflict, but I'm just saying they could make money off of anything if they make it look like it's worth deploying our troops. They just don't.
Right. But that our troops should be at the border.
Of
That's
course.
exactly where they should be. They shouldn't be over there in Jordan in a limited deployment, being cannon fodder for the Lindsey Grahams and of the world.
I'm afraid you saying big toys overseas is going to give some people really bad ideas of using them on the border at some point, but they won't because they don't care about the border. You know, like what are they going to do to these people at some point? Or they're turning on us.
Yeah, these are like our honorary citizens now. Like these people that are coming across the border that are given like Thanksgiving in Chicago, they're giving like Thanksgiving meals and stuff, and they're like, you know, just random families, and it's like, well,
don't ever try to migrate here legally, which I know your family's had experience, my family's had experience with this. Like anyone who has had to do it, you guys have to figure it out on your own. But if you come illegally, we'll give you support.
The border in Yuma, watching the border patrol sit at the wall, waiting with luggage tags and bottles of water and their van to take the people to HQ, where if they have a number to someone in the States and that person picks up, they will fly you there for free, is insane. Totally insane stuff. And it was happening constantly.
Watching these individuals come across, and you see the piles of the wristbands. You've seen those?
Oh, yeah.
And the different colors. Yeah. See that they are the cartel's product, and that's what those wristbands represent. And when they reach different transfer stations, they get a new colored wristband.
Yeah. But it's cool. We'll continue to let the cartel treat humans like products. We'll promote human smuggling by keeping our border open so that Joe Biden can say, well, Trump is the one that closed the border and I'm the one who opened it. And aren't I a better person for that? When actually you're encouraging horrible atrocities to happen to, I'm sure there are some very desperate people who think this is the right path forward. I think there are also people who just know I can have an advantageous life if I illegally cross into America.
Right.
This whole system is crazy, and yet we're supposed to pretend that Democrats are supporting something good by saying, no, border restrictions are somehow bad. That seems crazy.
It's another overcompensation. Even though Obama was the one, I believe, who had people in cages, they say it was Trump. So he's got to overcompensate for the Trump cage. But by doing that, he's just opened everything up.
Well, humans can be a product here, but they're going to be cannon fodder over there, and that's the conflict that we're looking at.
Do you feel like during your time dabbling in journalism, the conversation around illegal immigration has changed very much, or do you feel like we're just more amplified on positions that parties already held?
It's more amplified, and I'm one of those libertarians who does not believe in open borders because we live in a dangerous world.
Right.
I have a utopian libertarian ideal. If I take the test, I'm a full-on anarchist, right? Except for one thing, that's not the world in which we live.
Right.
That's the world we want. I wish we could live in that world, but we don't. So my attitude has not changed.
Yeah.
And that I had that attitude.
What about other people who kind of share your values? Do you feel like other libertarians have moved to a more closed border position?
Some have, but the idealistic of those who are
purists in some way.
Right.
Let's talk about what's going on with January 6th. And your case, we have the story from Real Clear Investigations. It's been covered quite a bit over the past few months. This one is Investigative Issues. Independent journalist receives January 6th grand jury subpoena. Steve Baker says he believes actors in the Department of Justice seek to silence him. This is back in August. Since then, you've received notice that they actually are intending to criminally charge you. And you are a journalist. You work for The Blaze, or you're a contributor?
No, I am now a full-time investigative journalist for The Blaze. I officially shut down my bands and my operations musically, and I am. So you
were acting as a journalist on January 6th.
Correct.
You are friends with many prominent journalists, notably Richie McGinnis.
Yes.
Who was, what did he say to you? That it would be insane if they went after you for working journalism on January 6th, but now they're coming after you. So what's happening?
Right. Well, they actually made the first threat against me all the way back in November of 21. I did my FBI interview in July of 21, so 6 months after January 6th. And then, that was when they first contacted my attorney. And then we did the interview in October of 21. On November 17th of 21, my attorney got an email from a assistant U.S. attorney out of Philadelphia who said, your client, that would be me, is going to be charged within the week. And that within the week
that was in 2021?
Yes, that would have been Thanksgiving week of 21 that they originally threatened me with charges. We went on a media and a press offensive instantly. Press release, started doing podcasts and TV and radio interviews and things of that nature. And so that, among other things, we think they backed off. They were like, this guy's too big of a pain in the butt for us to deal with, so they just moved me to the bottom of her pile, the assistant U.S. attorney. And so we didn't hear from them for 20 months. They went away. Now, for 20 months, though, I kept waiting for those red dots in my bedroom window every morning at 6 o'clock. People think I'm joking when I say this. I don't have to set an alarm anymore. 6 o'clock every morning, I wake up and I look for the red dots in my window.
What do you mean red dots?
The SWAT raid.
Lasers being weapons pointed at you.
Yeah. Of course, that's not, they don't actually use red dots anymore. It's
because it would be at 2 a.m. That's why I understand.
Yeah. But it's what I expect, or what I'm fearful of, and I've had that burden in my gut for that long. And so 20 months went by, and then in August, as you can see from that the date on that article right there by Joe Hanneman, that in August I got another call from my attorney. He said, okay, now we have a grand jury subpoena for you. And now we're subpoenaing your work from January 6th. So they wanted my videos, which was completely unnecessary because we not only offered that to them during my FBI interview, free of charge, or so to speak, with
complimentary,
as a complimentary service to the FBI, but more importantly, it was part of the cooperation. And then secondarily, we offered it to them yet again to the Department of Justice through exchange with my attorney. There was nothing to hide there. It didn't matter. I don't think I was gonna cause anybody that was there on January 6th any harm because they were already on 1,000 other videos anyway. Mm-hmm. So it really wasn't going to hurt anybody if I gave them my videos. So that was my thinking anyway at the time. So we get a grand jury subpoena. The problem with a grand jury subpoena is that grand juries are not seated for misdemeanor charges, only for felonies. It's like, okay, crap. What are they looking at? What are they going to try to do now? What have they been scheming and concocting for 20 months while they've been silent? So we complied. I gave them a flash drive. I actually confronted my FBI agent in the parking lot at his field office with my attorney standing beside me, and I grilled him for about 15 minutes about what they were doing for 20 months. What's going on? I don't know. I said, no, that's BS. You do know, because you're the one that actually has to write the statement of facts based upon which the Department of Justice will then file charges against me. So it's going to be your recommendations, and he wouldn't tell me. And so another 5 months goes by. I'm actually sitting in Thomas Massey's office in D.C., the Rayburn building, and I get another text from my attorney, and it's like, because when your attorney calls you, it's never good. And so I step out into the hallway, and he says, okay, I guess this is the big day. This was on Thursday, December 14th, and he said they are asking you to self-surrender in Raleigh, North Carolina, on Tuesday. So this has been the Tuesday before Christmas week of this past year. So I took my big breath. I walked outside, and then I tweeted out that it's happening. And within 24 hours, I had 4.5 million views of that tweet. And then the blaze went into high gear, and there were other media appearances as well over the next 24 hours. Within 30 hours, by 5 o'clock, close of business on Friday, the 15th of December, my attorney gets another call from the FBI agent. And he says, okay, we're going to postpone your self-surrender until after Christmas.
Wow.
All right. So my lead attorney, because I have 6 attorneys on this case now. And so my lead attorney then, he takes over. So he contacts the new assistant U.S. attorney, because now they've assigned me to somebody else during that 30-hour period. They took it away from assistant U.S. attorney Anita Eve out of Philadelphia, and they assigned it to a guy by the name of Adam Dreyer out of D.C. So got a new guy, young gun on the case, and I guess that's the kill shot. The guy, he's the specialist, right? So the week between Christmas and January 1st, my lead attorney got on the phone with him. So okay, what's going on here? Okay, well, right now what he says is that they're going to delay the self-surrender till sometime mid-January, and because we know Mr. Baker's travel schedule and what he's doing, because I stay on the road almost full time, and he says we'll give him 7 to 10 days notice before he needs to come in and present himself. Okay, I'll pass that along to my client. What are the charges going to be? Well, I can't tell you. What do you mean you can't tell? Well, I could tell you, but we're not, because as soon as I tell you, Mr. Baker will tweet it out.
As is your right, though.
Yeah, as is my right. Now, technically, he could fall back on the fact that until an actual judge or magistrate signs the arrest warrant, there are no charges. Yeah. So,
Well, so it's the end of January. What's the latest? That's it?
Oh, we haven't heard from them since.
Wow. I think this shows, you look at the Trump E. Jean Carroll case, and there's no justice system. It is weaponization of. It's remarkable to me. Trump gets accused by some crackpot old woman of a story that's based off of that bears striking resemblance to Law and Order SVU, denies it, and the denial is defamation.
Yeah.
Then he gets accused of fraud in New York. The judge issues a summary judgment without hearing any evidence and says, doesn't matter, Trump did it. Now in the trial to determine the amount of damages and whether or not he falsified business records, all the witnesses are like, oh no, Trump was doing business on the level. It's totally fine. Doesn't matter. We've already said. So what we have here, I think it's proof of they will do whatever they can get away with. And with you, you're on the line. You're not you're not Ben Shapiro.
No.
You don't have millions of followers, but you're not nobody. You work in media, and a lot of people are paying attention to your story. If you were like so many of the other J6ers who bumbled about confused, like I'm not talking about the rioters. I'm talking about the woman I met who said she showed up an hour after the riot, doors were open, there were no barricades, and she walked around confused and went home. 18-month sentence.
Yeah.
She does not have the platform you have as a journalist. And so now you've put them in this position where they're like, we got to get him, but oh man, he's too loud.
This past Thursday, myself and 4 of my attorneys in Dallas, in Dealey Plaza, we did a press conference. Interesting.
Yeah,
choice
I was going to say, good
location.
location.
Chosen
You
by
stand on the little box in the middle of the street?
Well,
or
I made sure I took photos of the X in the street. But the point being is that we did a press conference there, and I actually addressed the point that you were making right there. And I said that exact thing. Unfortunately, there were so many that had come before me already. And I'm talking specifically about other independent journalists who have been jacked up by the system, and they did not have the coverage of me. They didn't have 4, great attorneys standing behind them. They didn't have the power, the bullhorn of the blaze behind them at the time. And they didn't have the reach. So they were completely overwhelmed by that. Most of them having to use court-appointed lawyers to defend them that were probably of a leftist bent to begin with, didn't really care about their case. I know of individuals that have been jammed into what they call these stipulated bench trials. They don't even know what the client doesn't even know what that is. What is that? And they try to explain to them that it's a lot simpler, it's easier, it's going to cost you a lot less money. Well, basically, you're just walking in and pleading guilty without the opportunity to present your case or present any exculpatory or diminishing, something that might diminish your charges or diminish your sentencing, that sort of thing. But specifically to the independent journalists that have been caught up in this thing, I've watched trials. This is a great example. A young guy. Stephen Horn, also from Raleigh, North Carolina. We never knew each other before the January 6th thing. But what ended up happening to him is this he was 22 years old on January 6th, but he had a history of doing journalism since he was 16, including applying for and acquiring press passes for various events that he had covered. So when he goes up to cover that event, he actually tried to acquire a pass. He actually contacted Metropolitan PD. They wouldn't issue him one. He went anyway. He had been covering riots and the 20 riots in Raleigh, so he installed inside of his bicycle helmet a hidden camera so he didn't look like press. He didn't wear press anywhere, and so that he could blend into the crowd. So he gets arrested. He gets the 4 basic misdemeanor charges. He decides he's going to do a jury trial, right? So in the process of putting all this together in D.C., yeah, I mean, brave kid. He's going, and I'll tell you exactly why he decided to do that. There's another reporter by the name of Luke Mogelson who submitted his story to the New Yorker. He captured the famous video of the QAnon shaman inside the Senate chamber, chanting, praying, all of that. So Luke and another journalist by the name of J.D. Rivera from Pensacola, they basically paralleled each other through the building, took the same thing. J.D. ended up getting 8 months in prison.
Wow.
Luke, of course, didn't, because when Luke submitted his story to the New Yorker, the title of his story was Among the Insurrectionists. Yep. So he had his get out of jail free card already,
Yep. He said insurrection.
Right. So, but back to Stephen Horn. So Stephen Horn says, well, look, I'm going to go declare my innocence in front of a jury. And so they file a motion for selective prosecution in his case, his attorneys do. And the judge, a Trump-appointed judge by the name of Kelly, he would not allow the jury to see those press badges.
What?
That's
Why?
correct.
How?
Because
Yeah.
Wow.
This is disgusting.
He might
Yeah.
tweet it
That's
out.
disgusting.
So he would not allow that jury to see these. Now, I went up to D.C. to cover that trial. I was there for every minute of Stephen Horn's trial. And so I finally reached a level of frustration one day. And, I ran out into the hallway to where the attorney's room was and knocked on the door. And then one of them answered the door. And I said, you have to present blah, 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 blah. And he said, we can't. What do you mean? What do you mean you can't? It's the truth about his life, about his career, about his desire since he was a kid to be a journalist. We can't talk about it. We're under orders. We can't bring that up. And so what they did is the U.S. attorneys denigrated that kid. They absolutely, completely made any insinuation that he was there for any other reason other than to participate in the riot. It was completely slammed, and they could not just even show that jury. But, these were the press badges he acquired since he was 16.
What did he get?
This was a miracle. His sentencing was the day after Ray Epps' sentencing.
Oh, no
And
way.
that Ray Epps sentencing sent shock waves
Yeah.
through
Oh,
the
I just got
courts.
chills hearing that.
Yes.
Wow.
That was
Because he got off
crazy.
so easy with the
No
slap
jail
on the
time,
wrist.
right?
Wow.
So Horn only got a year probation and a $2,000 fine.
Still too much.
Still
But
too much.
thank God.
And if it had been before Epps, very likely it would
absolutely.
have been jail time.
Because and now before Epps was the guy I mentioned from Pensacola, J.D. Rivera. He was actually the first person from the Panhandle of Florida to be caught up in the dragnet early January of 21, and he was the first one arrested in that part of the country. And he was actually contracted by a television station from Mobile. He shows up at January 6th with his big gear, his big expensive, shoulder mounted camera, and he's going through there and he went through the same broken window that Luke Mogelson, New Yorker, submitted his story to. They both went through the same broken window. Luke Mogelson had his iPhone. Luke Mogelson said, yes, I used my phone as a reporter's notebook. And JD had his expensive gear. So when he gets home, and the station is all excited when he's driving home on the 7th. They're calling him, you got all this footage. It's incredible. We can't wait to see it. Can't wait to get it. And then when he gets home, he doesn't hear from them at all. A few days later, over 20 agents show up at his doorstep, red dots on his wife, his kids, his family. You know what JD's crime was? He never chanted. He never said USA, USA. He never, stopped the steal or any chant whatsoever. He wasn't wearing all the Trump paraphernalia, that sort of thing. His crime is he had been and had covered and had been active in the Hispanic or Latinos for Trump movement prior to that.
Wow.
So he goes to a bench trial. So he was smart enough not to, to risk a jury, but the judge in his case convicted him. And when he was sentenced, he was given 8 months in prison. He spent his first 2 months in solitary confinement. When he gets out of solitary and he gets into the general population of this medium security prison in Georgia, the other prisoners thought he was, he was some sort of spy or plant or whatever, because
His story's fake.
it had to be fake because misdemeanor defendants are not sent to this prison. So they're all looking at him like going, no, hey, we're the pros. This is what we do for a living. We go to prison. Mm-hmm. We commit real crimes. Misdemeanor defendants do not come to this prison. He said, no, man.
This is so infuriating.
Wow.
I feel like you've seen the face of the military-industrial complex in terms of how they've grown out into the media, and these people are like the engineers of the false reality, where like you can tell that story if you use the right words, like we talked about the headlines earlier. But if you tell it like this, we're going to throw you in jail.
Was Judge Kelly, was he the one who also acquitted that guy on for trespassing because the cop waved him in? Was that Kelly?
No, that wasn't Kelly. I forget which judge that was, but Kelly was also the guy over the
Proud Boys,
trial.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you know what happened to John Sullivan? Remember that guy?
Yes, I covered his trial. I was there.
What's the deal?
I just interviewed his mom and dad just a couple of weeks ago.
Did he get in trouble? I didn't see.
Yeah.
All I saw was that he sold the stuff to like CNN.
Oh yeah, he was convicted on 7 counts.
Wow.
And then he was remanded into custody after being allowed to sit in home confinement for almost 3 years. He was immediately remanded into custody and taken off to jail.
McFadden.
Wow.
McFadden.
Yeah, McFadden ruled that Matthew Martin was not riding, and he was invited in by the police.
Because he made a reasonable assertion and it was on video that when he walked in and as he's passing a cop and he kind of greeted the cop in a friendly kind of manner, and then the cop kind of patted him on the shoulder.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
The McFadden said,
this is why, and forgive me, everyone, but this is why I say civil war so often. The Young Turks make a living off of lying. It's what they do. And so in January of 2022, I think it was, I had made a statement that we were going to start seeing acquittals because in order for there to be trespass charges, you need to have asserted property rights in the first place. Meaning, if there is a barrier you cross, you are beyond trespass. We've dealt with this. So typically the law is, and the law in Maryland specifically, I don't know if DC laws, it's not the same as Maryland, but there's probably a tremendous overlap. If someone walks onto your unguarded property, they have only trespassed if they have been warned they are trespassing. In the case of the Capitol, when the barricades are removed and the doors are open and the cops are holding them open, you cannot claim someone is trespassing in any traditional legal sense. You would never win. If you put up a sign that says no trespassing private property or closed to the public and someone walks past it, they have now trespassed. If you put up a chain across the threshold with a sign saying no trespass and they step over it, in Maryland, that's 4th degree burglary. Crossing a barrier to enter a property. Many of these J6ers, they show up and what do they see? There's no barricades. The doors are open and the police are waving people in. I said, we're going to see acquittals. The Young Turks, this is what they do. That's why I gave a shout out on Twitter to Anna and Vosh, because Vosh does the same thing. They'll take a morsel of an argument made, something like me saying they're going to acquit some of these people on trespass charges, and then apply that to a guy bashing a cop with a shield or something and say, Tim Pool thinks a guy who bashed a guy with a shield is not going to get charged because he didn't know. There's broken glass everywhere and he's fighting the police, which is literally not what I said. And so when you have a wave after wave of people falsely believing these psychotic things, they cheer for the government oppressing, beating, and murdering people. And the best part is, these are the people who claim to be activists against the prison systems while supporting one of the most egregious violations of human rights in the United States of our generation. People who were walking around DC, but you know what the issue is? They're all Trump supporters, so it's fair game. If you were a Trump supporter on DC and you showed up to the Capitol an hour and a half or 2 hours after the riots, they're arresting these people. They didn't fight anybody. They didn't break anything. They did not trespass. And these people are going to jail. If you're Owen Schroyer and you were at a permitted rally, you got a permit for it, but you yelled something like death to tyrants, you're going to prison because you're all Trump supporters. And then what you get is the left-wing media, the leftist media, will absolutely lie about everything that happened for the benefit of making money for their companies.
I will tell you that I have had conversations with some of my MSM colleagues who have, of course, off the record, conceded that some of those accidental tourists, accidental trespassers, just didn't know the DC law and didn't understand DC. And they would concede that, they probably got to the door, they saw the line of people coming in, and they probably thought it was all right. We here in DC, though, of course, we know how uptight it is, and we probably, a local resident probably
I completely disagree.
That's what they tell me.
We have seen over and over again protesters storm DC buildings. There are protests in DC every week.
Are they bussed in?
Protesters?
The ones that are storming, are those the ones that
sometimes,
are
yes, in? Absolutely. Yeah. Left-wing organizations will get charters. Activists will show up in DC, and they'll enter these buildings and shut them down.
Yeah,
Kavanaugh hearing.
Yeah,
I mean, Kavanaugh hearing is one example, but we had a recent example. A bunch of far leftists were protesting Israel,
right?
Yeah,
and shutting things down in DC in these buildings.
Yep.
During Occupy Wall Street, occupiers showed up in DC. Everybody entered these buildings, and there were thousands of people I shouldn't say storming, but marching through the halls, chanting, knocking on doors, looking for members of Congress. Totally fine, totally A-okay. So when you have historic precedents and legal precedents that protesters do enter these buildings and are never criminally charged, what we see now with J6 is it's plainly obvious to anybody. It's a farce. It's a lie. To the guys who are fighting cops, lock them up. 20 years seems a little excessive, if you ask me. A few months. But you look at Antifa during Trump's inauguration, when they marched around the city, smashing windows and setting fires. Not only were these people they were arrested, they were released, their charges were dropped, and then the city paid them millions.
And more importantly, by comparison to that particular situation after Trump's inauguration, was that the Department of Justice tried to prosecute these cases. They were getting hung juries and acquittals in court. And so they went, screw it, and they just dismissed the rest of them. And of course, that is because of the D.C. makeup of a jury. I mean, when you're talking about 92.5% of the jurors or the jury pool, they're voted for Biden anyway. It's a fait accompli before your jury selection ever even happens. It's not going to go your way. And of course, what the Department of Justice has done, and what every judge that is inside on this colluding in this cartel that they have developed, or what I call a star chamber, is they have decided that there's not going to be a change of venue motion granted to anyone, regardless of those circumstances, regardless of the polling, regardless of the data, the actual evidence, that you cannot get a fair trial there. It's 99.75% conviction rate right now on January 6th trials. 95.75. If you just take Department of federal law in D.C., it's just over 60% of the cases they win. It's because it's political. If you take the average of just over 60% compared to 99.75, you can't help, if you're an honest broker whatsoever, except to conclude that this is a political problem.
Why hasn't Donald Trump filed a lawsuit against E. Jean Carroll in West Virginia?
Well, obviously he should, but...
My question is, we watch this stuff happen over and over and over again. In New York to Donald Trump, where are the Republicans to literally file the same suits? Where are the prosecutors in these Republican states to file charges against these political organizations? They're just not doing anything.
All of the attorneys that I work with right now, they all say the exact same thing. If every single one of these January 6th defendants had been tried in their home district before a jury of their peers, that it would have been a 50-50 proposition in terms of conviction versus acquittals. And so you have to get outside of the Beltway in order to get a fair trial there. And that's honestly, this is my fight. If I have to go there, it's not going to be like J.D. Rivera's fight. It's not going to be like Stephen Horn's fight. I have the advantage of having watched from the bench in their trial. I have the advantage of watching how they treated the Oath Keepers. But
are you going to go for a bench?
If I had to choose for it, it would be a bench trial. Absolutely, I wouldn't do a jury trial.
The risk there is that the judges are corrupt too.
Well, you have,
but at least you know the jurors are corrupt. Maybe you'll get lucky and get McFadden.
Right. Or you get them at a time, like, for instance, we now know that in chambers that these judges are talking about this 1512 obstruction of official proceeding trial, a charge that SCOTUS has agreed to take up. We know that in chambers they're saying, oh yeah, SCOTUS is going to scrap this thing, which is going to send the entire J6 routine into complete chaos.
I mean, people are going to get their charges rescinded, or how's that going to work?
That's what they've got to figure it out. I mean,
because I imagine on appeals it would change a lot.
The obstructing official proceeding. Right. The challenge to it is it was a literal reference to destruction of documents, not marching through a building, which bothered someone.
Correct. That's exactly it.
So SCOTUS is going to rule and probably say, yeah, the law was made for this reason, not for protesters who might show up at some point.
And it's already creating chaos because individuals who have already had that charge on them for maybe their charging documents were executed a year or 2 years ago, and they're just now getting to trial. Obviously, their motions are being made by their defense attorneys. No, we need to delay the trial until this is decided by SCOTUS, and the judges are granting that. And then additionally, some of the judges have let people out of prison because the only reason they were in prison was because of the 1512.
So some people have already been released?
Yes, they've actually already released some of them. They've sent them home conditionally until this thing is settled.
Wow.
So it's already creating problems. As I said, the re-ups sentencing sent shockwaves through. I mean, I don't know how going forward that they can sentence a misdemeanor defendant now to prison time. After what
have you said? What you think they'll charge you with?
They won't tell me, as I mentioned before. In my first interview with the FBI, they said, "Look, it's not our place to decide. We're just going to turn this information over to the DOJ. If they decide to charge you, it's probably going to be just the 4 basic misdemeanors." But when they did notify me that I was going to be charged in November of 21, one of the charges that they were going to hit me with was interstate racketeering.
What?
I'll just let that marinate for a moment.
Well, what is that? What does that?
Because I had licensed and made money off of the sale of my videos.
So they're admitting you're a journalist.
Right. Exactly.
We're going to go to Super Chat. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and head over to timcast.com. Click Join Us. Become a member to check out the members-only uncensored show coming up tonight. You don't want to miss it. It's not so family-friendly. We've got some big stories to talk about in culture war issues, wokeness. We'll talk about Mark Cuban and all that stuff. And you get to join our Discord server where you can hang out with like-minded individuals with the pre-shows, the after-shows, as well as the morning shows they do. And they, when you're in the Discord, you can submit questions and actually call into the show and talk to us and our guest. So become a member, support our work directly. And also don't forget to buy Facts by Tom McDonald featuring Ben Shapiro at factswithben.com. It would be... If there was anything I could buy, if someone offered me like right now you can buy something, well, to be honest, I'd say like justice for J6ers. I'd say, winning the culture war. But right now, the one grain of sand we can throw in that heap is making Ben Shapiro a Billboard Hot 100 rapper. And that would please me ever so greatly. Here we go. Christopher Lambert says, and once more. That's right, sir. You are the first super chat. Jasha Beam says 4th. Unfortunately, you were 2nd. There you go. Big 7588 says, the problem with U.S. healthcare is the patients. It's the Americans who eat a bunch of really, really bad food, Let's grab some, what do we got? Jacob Parody says, hey, Tim, could you please my future niece's business a shout out? That's what he wrote. It's called Narbar's Candles. She just joined Public Square and I thought she could use a boost. Here's to the parallel economy. Hear, hear. Start those businesses, man. Challenge that machine.
Shout out to Public Square.
Yeah, it's cool that Public Square can give people another way to promote their new business. I mean, the people who shop on Public Square are pretty loyal to it.
Public Square has centralized the ability to help build the parallel economy and challenge woke institutions. I love it. Mm-hmm. So once they become their own store akin to Amazon, but we know that they're not selling garbage and investing money in bad ideas, it's going to be convenient for everybody. Yeah. And that's where we got to get to. We got to that point of convenience. The Drunk Conservative says, Tim, did you see the Daily Wire story about the Disney DEI Wheel of Power and Privilege that was hanging up in the theme parks? I think I did see that somewhere. I'm not sure, though.
Is that a scary ride? It sounds like a really scary ride.
Corporate America is shaking their boots. They're like, we do this every Thursday.
All right. Let's go. Port Film Co-op says, find and watch Europa, The Last Battle. What is that? Is it about migration in Europe or something?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard of it.
Or is it about...
the moon around Saturn?
Yeah, I was thinking like spaceships fighting aliens in Saturn? Or
it's like
is it no, it's Jupiter, isn't it?
Jupiter.
Jupiter.
One of those.
Europa, Io, Ganymede.
It's about immigration to one of the moons.
One
of those fake planets in fake space.
The alleged planets in space.
Yeah, I mean,
For some reason, I just know a bunch of moon names.
I think that's a good skill, man.
Yeah, it's good. While Tim pulls up another one, I just want to say real quick, I checked Twitter and people are sending me AI nudes of Nancy Pelosi. I am not happy.
Okay, but you brought it up like 3 times. They're like, oh my gosh.
Right.
He really wants it.
Shane was like, don't send me these photos.
Send to me.
My wife is like, oh, you're just adding more to the folder. Oh my goodness.
I'm single. Can I put in my order right now?
You're interested in Nancy Pelosi?
No, I didn't say
yeah, you got to specify.
Do you want to throw your handle out so people know where to send it?
Right, exactly.
All right. Tricky Rex says, the NFL is the same as WWE. It's sports entertainment along with NASCAR, the NFL, and MLB, and so on. If it's broadcast sports, it's rigged on some level. Well, there was like some big NBA rigging scandal, wasn't there?
Like tons.
Wasn't it like they extended the finals to get extra games to make more money or something like that?
Yeah, they just if it was going like the last game, then there was a chance for an extra game. They would an extra game is
tons of money.
Yeah, and there have been like refs from professional sports that have been fired when it comes out that they are the ones betting on the games, right? Like,
or the ones getting endorsements from like particular groups to make the game last longer.
Right. There are corrupt people everywhere. Sports are
I saw a funny video recently of Michael Jordan who was playing on the Wizards, and the ref didn't see the thing that happened. That was a foul, and Jordan tells him that was definitely like a foul. And he's like, I didn't see it, but I believe you, Michael.
All right, T-Rex Pet Shop says, maybe Gen Z is voting for Trump because they don't want to be drafted in World War III. Trump will be more likely to negotiate peace. That is correct. Eric CK says, Tim, I see your videos with tens of thousands of views on TikTok all the time. So we made new accounts because that's the way TikTok works. You get banned, you make a new account. It's a better way to do it, but still, their bannings are BS. But more importantly, other people are posting our videos and clips on TikTok, and it's whatever. You should. Everyone should post clips from this show and whatever show on those platforms. And I will say the same thing. Posting clips, very different from posting the whole show. The whole show, you know, that's a problem. But Post Millennial posts clips from the show all the time. We love it. If you want to take clips that you think are from the show that you think are good and important, please clip that portion of the show and share it. And more importantly, I hope on X, when you do so, you make money by doing it.
One of my favorite ones was I think it must have gone to TikTok first, but I saw it on Instagram, getting sent you and was it Destiny? And it's your like famous, now hold on a minute moment.
That wasn't Destiny, that was Lance.
Okay, that was Lance. Sorry, I get everyone's names mixed up. But it's like
when he said that abortions are okay at any point, it's the mother's choice, but the mother shouldn't be allowed to do drugs because it would kill the baby.
Wild.
Yeah.
And then I was like, hold on there a minute.
Hold on there a minute. And then it had like, my Instagram is like not political at all. I'm sure it knows on some level, but like to suddenly see Tim come up, I was like, wow, this must be going quite viral.
That clip went mega viral with like tens of millions of hits because what they did was, it's Lance from the Surf saying, I was like, you think a woman could have abortion? You should be able to have abortion up to any point, even at the point of birth. And it's like, it's her body, it's her choice. And then I was like, what about meth? And he was like, well, no, because that would kill the baby. And then I said, hold on there a minute. And then they inserted Dave Chappelle going, gotcha, bitch. Yeah. And that was it.
A good one, yeah.
That version of it got tens of millions of hits or something.
Of course it went viral because you rarely get galaxy brain takes like that.
I had a bunch of very high profile people hitting me up after that clip.
It was wild, dude.
Like a week or two weeks later, I have like very high profile person.
Hilarious.
You send me this message and be like, what the? And I'm like, yeah, it's the show. You should watch it.
Yeah, like IRL, I'm sitting here like, for real? Like, but
Well, it's funny because what they do is there's like a clip where it's like Lance schools like destroys Tim Pool on the rise of LGBT or trans kids. I never disagree with him on that issue. He held up a piece of paper saying the rise of left-handedness, and I was like, oh, okay, interesting. And then they're like, aha, he got him. And I'm like, I didn't disagree with him. I was like, I don't understand. My favorite right now is Vosh and Anna Kasparian made videos where it's like Tim Pool cheers for child labor. You know what I cheered for? 16 and 17-year-olds being able to work part-time jobs.
You crazy person.
Wow. So it's like, Vosh goes, people like Tim Pool and conservatives are trying to exploit children to make them work because the children yearn for the mines, which is a meme. That's fine. But it's just like, bro, my argument was that if you're 16 or 17, you're allowed to have a 30-hour-a-week job. And it's just like, yes, I had a summer, like, who didn't have a summer job?
I had a paper route at 11.
I was just going to say, I was working at that age too. I was mucking horse stalls.
When I was 16, I worked fast food 32 hours a week. I don't, but you know what it is? What was crazy to me is at first I was like, they're misrepresenting me. I'm saying like kids should work paper routes and kids should mow lawns. When I say children should work, I'm talking about shoveling snow for $10 or like working, like helping your parents at the mom and pop shop. And I thought they were misrepresenting me. That was generating fake outrage. A lot of it was like Vosh and Anna, absolutely. Like they took my tweet about 16 and 17-year-olds being able to work 30 hours a week. But I found on Reddit, they genuinely think 10-year-olds shouldn't mow lawns, shouldn't take out garbage, shouldn't shovel snow. Wow. And that was like, wow. And the comments were things like, to force a child to understand the misery of working for a minimum wage. And I was like I'm mowing lawns?
They're like, this is why we need abortion.
It was
they can't work.
There's literally
life is too hard.
There's a clip of me. They say this though. Look, I never agreed to be born. Why do I have to work?
Psychotic.
So there was a clip of me from this show where I'm literally like, I'm not saying work in factories. I'm saying kids should work at a mom and pop shop and help take out the garbage. And the comments were literally like, that is abuse. How dare you? And I was like, wow.
I am
not
censoring myself right now for YouTube.
Yeah,
Children, they yearn for the minds, though. All right, where we at? Let's grab some more super chats. James Richard says, as an empire only wins a war if the people fight for one another. This nation, America, will not. They're too busy fighting with each other. Yes, that's the crazy reality, man. All right. Where are we at? Jetstorm says, I'm honestly terrified about any case of war. My mom's uncles fought in World War II, Vietnam, and have seen ish. My grandfather was in Korea. What the hell was their sacrifice for? If I go, I'm done, and Spanish double down. Now, I got to be honest. When I think about like the Koreas, I understand. If you came to me and said, we are going to send troops into Vietnam to stop the spread of communism, I go, oh. There's questions about the U.S. and whether or not we should have a role in any of this expansion. But we're not in an era of global communist expansion. And I think for a lot of the young communists in the United States, they were upset about the draft and going to war and all this stuff. So I'm not a big fan of foreign intervention in any capacity, especially if like some other country I don't care about is becoming communist. But I can at least understand the fear of communism taking over, surrounding the United States, cutting it off, and then strangling us out. Now what do we have? Why were we in Afghanistan or Iraq? Like, I'm not even a fan of going to Vietnam over communism, but I can at least understand the threat of communism, you know? Especially nowadays, it's really funny because it's like, what was their sacrifices for? It's like, well, I guess to stop communism didn't work. The communists are taking everything over, so.
Yeah. What's the global expansionist threat now?
Anti-communism. The global, the elite, the World Economic Forum fears Donald Trump. Nope. All right. Scott Colomb says, the military is currently not requiring a high school diploma or a GED to enlist, suggesting that we're going to war probably soon. I believe that was 2 years ago. It was 2022 when they removed those requirements. So it's been a while now. Joe Robo, this is Joe Rob. Okay, there's just 2 zeros. Enlisting illegals into the military would negate the check and balance that U.S. soldiers would never follow orders to attack U.S. citizens. Illegal enlistees would absolutely fulfill such attacks. There are already many people who are promised citizenship in exchange for service. That actually happens. It's kind of funny. Service guarantees citizenship. They go to these people and say, if you serve 4 years, we'll give you your citizenship.
Yeah, and this is already happening in the Civil War, correct? With like the Irish immigrants coming across at Ellis Island or whatever, and they just hand them muskets and then send them to the front in the Civil War.
Oh wow,
that's true. Yeah,
you need baddies.
Yeah.
Cam Girl Asuna says, war with Iran. Government enacts emergency powers and arms illegals. Illegal army used to oppress citizens. Pretty high chances that's what happens. Still think culture is the answer, Tim? Still think we got time for breeding to fix this? Bro, war happens. We make it through war. We have an election coming up in November. Everything that's happening in this country and in the world is not going to go away if Donald Trump is elected, or if you do literally anything. It is no matter what you do, you are taking a ball peen hammer to a skyscraper. The issue right now is, can we get Donald Trump at the top of that skyscraper and start making substantial internal changes for the time being? Yeah, we need to. And we need everyone to work together to start building alternatives so that we can move past this. But more importantly, as I watch Taylor Swift struggle to get 8,000 people to register to vote out of her 272 million followers, it makes me think about just the total collapse of everything. When I was looking at I'm looking at the numbers. I'm looking at Ben Shapiro and Tom McDonald. They're number 1 on iTunes and Spotify. And based on those positions, plus on YouTube, plus the amount of views he has, the amount of views the song has and the plays on Spotify, I'm like, it looks like they're going to actually chart. And a lot of leftists are saying iTunes doesn't even matter anyway because nobody buys songs anymore. Explain, how does that make sense? Nobody buys songs, so who cares if Ben Shapiro sells more songs than anyone else? That actually is kind of contradictory. The statement would be, holy crap, Ben Shapiro convinced people to buy music again. Tom McDonald and Ben Shapiro are actually able to command more sales than celebrities. Like remember Napster and Metallica? But anyway,
yeah.
I'm thinking about all this and I'm like, the only way they get these big artists on the top of these charts is because they're forced onto these streaming playlists. Spotify, Apple, whatever, they will be like, this is a band. We're going to put them at the top and put them in rotation because everyone knows who they are. That manufactures radio plays and streams. So someone made a good point. They were like, workout routine playlists. People go to the gym, put on their headphones and press workout, and it plays a bunch of music they don't care about the person, don't care about the song, will never buy the song. But that hit, put them on the charts. What is more important? I think sales is the only metric right now that matters. I don't care if Taylor Swift was put on the new streaming playlist and they gave her the number one spot. That's meaningless. Number one sales, like I said, if Taylor Swift could convince 272 million people to buy one song for $1, she would do it. She can't. It's all fake. It's all manufactured. Started to realize that we got, I think the total sales we got for Together Again was between 26 and 28,000 songs, which is our biggest release ever. The last, I think, Genocide was like 18 or 20, and Only Ever Wanted was like 20. And so this one was a bit bigger with help from the Daily Wire. And we hit number one in sales on iTunes, on all these platforms. And I'm like, if we can command more influence than even these big artists, the only real issue is that Billboard used to be, if you sold the most, you were the top position. Then they changed it to like radio play and stuff like that. But ultimately the point is, you used to need 1 million sales to be on the top of the charts. Now, nobody cares. Nobody's excited for the new song by the band anymore. Nobody is going out and being like, yeah, now it's like, I'm sitting at we were at the casino in Hard Rock Seminole, and they played a song by Paramore that has like 6.6 million streams on YouTube. And I'm a big fan of Paramore, one of my favorite bands. But this song is not culturally relevant, and it's playing on the loudspeaker at a casino for all these people. And I'm just thinking to myself, why did they choose to play a song that nobody listens to? It's all manufactured. But my main point here is, if it's possible for someone like Ben Shapiro and Tom MacDonald to get at the top of the charts, it just shows that American culture is completely shattered. There's no unifying culture anymore. And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, if war happens, it's just bedlam in this country. No one's going to rally behind anybody. It's just chaos. Factions will instantly form. Various regions might break off and form their own defensive pacts. And it's not because any of them are mad at the United States. It's because if World War III starts, a small community in North Dakota says, we need to figure out how we keep food and water flowing. They form pacts with other groups. They're not listening anymore to DC because they're so far away, out of sight, out of mind. And then you'll end up with the North Dakota or the North Midwest Regional Alliance. It's not a faction formed out of hatred for the government. It's a faction formed out of necessity to secure resources at a time of mass conflict and war around the world. That's kind of how I see things, potentially going, but whatever. We'll read some more super chats. All right. Joel Xline says, LOL Tim, even Alex Jones wouldn't go that far to say Swift and Kelsey's relationship is put together by a publicist. That's silly, bud. Is that a joke? You can look up all the celebrities that are fake. It is a common trope where celebrities will meet and the publicist will say, so here's the point of the meeting. We want your football player to date our singer. And here's the plan. It's going to generate X amount of views. It's going to increase your Q rating, blah, blah, blah. They do it all the time. It's going to promote this movie they just both filmed. Like, I think it's super fun. They do it all the time. And there's a breakup.
Here's a good example. It's a conspiracy theory. It's not factual as far as I know, but it's in a bunch of books I've been looking into in terms of Hollywood. There's people that claim that Robert Mitchum that the weed story was manufactured to create a bad boy image. People will always say Robert Mitchum was the first celebrity arrested with weed. And there's claims that was all a manufactured story to present a different type of character for him.
He would be cool.
Here we go.
He was cool.
Jeff Bader says, obligatory payment for Tool praise, my friends.
Yes.
Not only is Tool a great band, but Maynard in A Perfect Circle has one of the best songs ever, and it's Judith. I recommend you actually listen to the lyrics, read the story of how he wrote Judith, how it came to be, and then the follow-up songs he wrote about his mom. Long story short, 'cause I've talked about it. It is amazing. His mom suffered a stroke. He then wrote a song criticizing her faith in Christ and in God because he couldn't understand how she would keep praising God despite him having condemned her to a life of paralysis. And it's actually an interesting song because the song is both the son's pain and anger and confusion, but at the same time, a message about his mom's faith and her unwillingness to waver despite the hardships she faces. And then later on, he wrote about how he finally, talked to her and understood how she really felt. And it's a great song. The guitar playing, man. But then, of course, Sober is just one of the best songs ever written. So
I love them both. It depends on the day.
Yeah, you could offer me up any Taylor Swift song, and I'd just be like, I will put Sober on loop forever.
Tool's one of the best shows I've ever seen live.
She's not writing for you. She's writing for girls. No, I'm just kidding.
And that's fine. I got no beef. I like Taylor Swift too.
Okay, so now someone
like,
AI.
Like I said, I like Paramore. Paramore's really good.
Although I think I don't use AI. I don't like AI, but someone out there should probably make Taylor Swift singing Sober.
Oh, please. That would be awesome.
That's her next surprise song at her concert.
Dude, how do you do that?
I don't know, but I see people. I saw someone did Kanye doing Somebody I Used to Know, and it sounded kind of good.
Wow.
Like in terms of like, they knew Kanye couldn't hit a certain note, so they the AI manufactured a certain way. I think
Taylor
it's terrible,
Swift singing Sober and Tool playing
Shake It Off.
Or Trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, Maynard singing Trouble would be great. No, but Sober is so good. I just put it on while I'm skating.
Yeah, great album.
All right, we'll grab some more super chats here. NYBSFP says, Tim, the Soros thing is being pushed by people that actually know better, but have decided to fight the war using the enemy's rules. That's it. Except the problem is, it's not the enemy's rules to sabotage your opportunity. I mean, we've beaten it to a dead horse. We've beaten a dead horse, okay? If Taylor Swift says Soros bad, you go, Taylor Swift, wow, she's so smart and great. I explained this when I was to do nonprofit fundraising. Rapport is the first thing you have to have in order to make it to pitch someone on your cause, to get them to sign up. You walk up to someone wearing a Taylor Swift shirt on the street, the first thing you should say is, I love Taylor Swift, Swifties, and high fiver. And they're like, you like Taylor Swift? I'd be like, yeah. Name a couple songs you may have heard on the radio. Like, dude, Trouble was so awesome. And I really did think it was funny how they did the goat memes on that one, but it's a good song. Did you ever hear about how she was complaining about how Soros stole all her music? That's how you do it. Don't give up the opportunity. That's brutal.
At conservative dads everywhere. This is how you connect with your teenage daughters.
Yeah. Wear a Taylor Swift shirt of her with a quote of her saying Soros stole her music. The Highlander says, twist ending, Taylor Swift gets pregnant, prompting a mass baby boom just to switch and go pro-abortion, causing the world's biggest child sacrifice.
No, I think if she goes
that's how I feel.
Pro-kid, it'll stay.
I hope so.
Look, guys, we just have to embrace the fact that she's going to turn our birth rate around. And I think that's good.
Okay.
If you have not already, my friends, please smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Head over to timcast.com right now because the members show will be starting in just a few minutes. And if you're a member, you can join the Discord server. By joining, you'll be able to submit questions and actually call into the show. But you have to be a member for at least 6 months or sign up at the $25 a month level. It's a screening process to keep out the weirdos and the activists and the shills. So, but sign up. Yeah, you'll support our work directly. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. Follow us on Instagram. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Steve, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, probably the main reason I'm not in jail yet is the work that we've been doing at the Blaze, the revelations that we've made in terms of the corruption, the Capitol Police, the fact that we have shown conclusively that some federal officers have lied in court in these trials, and more to come.
Right on. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah.
Are you on Twitter or any of the?
Yeah, Twitter at TPC4USA. TPC, the number 4 USA.
Nice. Well, it's been awesome having you here. I was so grateful you could come talk about your
Thank
experience
you.
with January 6th. I think that's
It's
really
been great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really important to keep that alive because I think people are apt to forget at times. I'm Hannah Claire Brimlaw. I'm a writer for Scanner News. That's scnr.com. You can follow our work if you follow at Timcast News on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to follow me personally, I'm on Instagram at hannahclaire.b and on Twitter at hcbrimlaw. So nice to see you, Shane.
It was great. It was an infuriating conversation hearing about the judges and what's going on with the J6 stuff. But thank you for the work you're doing. I'm Shane Cashman. It's January 29th, 2024. The Neuralink just got put in the first human skull. And Elon, I'm imploring you to let me follow this person to write a story for Scanner, scnr.com. We have many mutual friends on Twitter, and I'd hope they reach out on my behalf and tell you this story needs to be written. I think it's more interesting than space exploration, to be honest. And I'm at Shane Cashman everywhere. Thank you.
And I am Serge.com. I am ready for the after show whenever you are, Tim. And I'm not cutting my hair.
All right. We will see you all over at timcast.com in a minute or so. Thanks for hanging out.